Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лафтем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у щах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
О, бля! Игорь!
Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 378 of the news, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, and of course, as y'all can see, the markers are maroon, showing that it is the end of this week, and it'll be the beginning of a brand new one. This war has, of course, been going on for quite a while, and as we round out this last week, some very interesting news has started to surface around the pro-Russian news channels, and also the Russian videos that come out from Russian infantry. It appears that a little unit that many of y'all may know has started to bribe logisticians to steal ammo. We'll be getting to that here in a minute, but before we get into that giant news, and stick around because it will be coming up, we have a couple of bits of news around the rest of the world that are fairly interesting to cover, starting off in Germany. Because in Germany, we saw that the Germans were gracious enough to provide another 2 Gepard anti-aircraft vehicles. They also sent 6,000 ammunition sets along with these 2 Gepards into Ukraine. This means that the Ukrainians now have 34 Gepards total, with the additional 2 that has been sent today, and I do not know what is meant by ammunition set. I don't know if that set means for both of the 30mm guns, or just 1 per set, so it takes 2 sets to fully load a Gepard. I'm not really sure what the meaning of set is. But still, it is a sizable amount of ammunition either way, and great to know that the Germans are continuing their support for Ukraine's anti-aircraft operations in their attempts to ensure that their airspace stays safe. And these Gepards are usually used to shoot down cruise missiles and Shaheds, and from what we understand, they are being used at this very moment. While we don't have any news, picture evidence, or videos of it right now, while we're running this stream, there is a missile attack ongoing in the area of Ukraine. Several strategic bombers from Russian air bases have taken off within Russia and also in the Black Sea, along with Russian naval ships in the Black Sea Fleet, and have begun to fire cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, as well as Shahed 136 drones inside of Ukraine. At this moment, we do not know how many have been launched, and how many of them have been shot down, and how many of them have made it to their target, but that is going on at the very moment we are covering this news. Moving on from the anti-aircraft news, which is great in this respect to the Ukrainians, we're now going to be moving on into the area of the Ukrainian-Russian border, because in the area of Druzhba, or as on the Russian side is called Kumatovka, I believe is how it's pronounced, we saw that some Russian POWs were exchanged today, and it doesn't look like they were that happy to go home. I'm going to be quite honest with y'all, they look pretty depressed. So here's the clip. This guy right here looks like he's seen the devil himself. He's like, oh, bled, man, this is not good.
Які у вас питання, проблеми, пропозиції, скарги під час вашого незаконного перебування в Україні? Є? Є. Сутні? Все гаразд, скарг немає.
Man, this guy right here, Matthew, when the guy scooted past him, watch his arms. He grew up, he's like, my mother told me not to talk to strangers, please. Yes, he does that.
Все гаразд, скарг немає. Погодження було нормально? Так. Відчування? Сподіваюсь, ми більше не побачимося? Ні. Ви обіцяєте, хлопці? Так. Скажу вам, що у вас такий самий інститут уповноваженого є в Росії. Керує ним Москалькова Тетяна Ніколаївна, якщо ви чули про таку. Якщо вас ще раз захотять сюди відправити, ви маєте право до неї звернутися. І вона готова вам допомагати.
Now, I don't know what the guy is saying to him.
Сподіваюсь, що так і буде. Так?
But one thing's for certain, they are not happy to be on this bus. I don't know what's going to be happening to them. Also, Matthew, I'm hearing, like, your chair over there, by the way. Just letting you know. The feedback is, like, very, very sensitive tonight. But I don't know what is going on that they're not too happy about, because under any circumstances, wouldn't it be better to not be a prisoner of war? But apparently, whatever they've already found out is so bad that none of them are happy whatsoever with what's going to be going on. With that, we're now going to be moving on from the news in Russia and on into our location unknowns, because believe it or not, we actually didn't have any international news. Let me spread out to the entire map to make sure, and we don't, because I always put down sometimes foreign news, like for example the news in the United Kingdom or elsewhere, like in Canada, and then I completely forget it for some reason because it's not really in view when I'm running the stream. Anyways, we're moving on into our location unknowns, and we've had a decent amount of them today. When I started making this news, I thought we were going to not have a lot of location unknowns, but nonetheless, we do. And so, starting off with our first clip, we saw an army of drones shown off by United 24. And so, without further ado, here's the video. I have a feeling that United 24 has a license to the music that's being played, so I don't think we'll get copyrighted playing it, so we're going to play it with music. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite us here soon.
Is this the NAFO army of drones?
I don't know. It might be. It didn't say anything about that in the title, but it may be NAFO, because I didn't really see who provided them in the video, but let's take a look. We can see the FPV pilots, we can see all the drones that the Ukrainians are using. I don't know what kind of launch that was. That almost seemed like, I don't want to say that live, but that was a weird launch. I'm just gonna have to say that was a little weird. We can now see them standing around the fields.
From the showcase and testing of the Ukrainian-made UAVs.
They have a drone competition?
24, along with the Ministry of Digital Transformation, have launched the Army of Drones, which is a series of initiatives aimed at expanding Ukraine's drone warfare and capacity. These initiatives include constant procurement of drones, piloting schools for operators, and research and development. Back in August, they organized the Drone Hackathon. The event was set up to boost the military tech industry by discovering new startups specializing in drone production.
It was actually the first drone hackathon in Ukraine. It was the first one military kind. We won the prize actually because we have shown I think one of the best results.
Back then, the RP team came up with a prototype for guided ammunition. They teamed up with another hackathon participant who developed the software, and today they are going to make a test drop.
We have seen a lot of videos from the front lines where soldiers are trying to target enemies from Mavics or small UAVs by dropping things. We have got some information that this way is not very precise, or it is very not precise actually.
Very technical term, very not precise.
Change it by using some simple tech.
Shortly after the flight sessions began, the air alarms signaled the presence of enemy UAVs in the Kiev region sky. The flights had to stop for about an hour.
The
Dang.
aircraft system worked successfully, and we just witnessed how the enemy UAV was hit in the sky.
І зверніть увагу, що воно несе до 4 кілограм. Тобто
I think it's just carrying a RPG. Yeah, it's just carrying an RPG head. Mostly one of those FPV drones.
There were many different kinds of UAVs presented. Ones with the vertical takeoff, kamikazes, and FPVs. They all differ in size, specs, and serve different purposes. From now on, this range will be at the service of the Army of Drones, allowing developers and pilots to test their inventions. Initiatives like these are uniting the military, investors, nerds, and the tech industry.
Dang, they had to call the nerds out like that. They're like, it's uniting the military, investors, nerds. And then they just went through the rest of dang, way to crap on them. Anyways, still very impressive to see the kind of drone technology that is being presented by just average people in Ukraine who are coming up with their own inventive ways to help the Ukrainian soldiers on the lines. And it looks like we got a good look at what kind of drones the Ukrainians may be using in the future, or at least developing a little bit further. We're now going to be moving on to our next bit of news, where we can see the practical drones that have been dropping their grenades onto the Russians. Here, for example, the 103rd Brigade was dropping the bombs. So let's check it out. Also, we're going to mute that. But we can see the bomblet on its way falling. We can see a group of Russians down there near a car, and it blows up. They fall over. And a second one's on its way. Mr. President, there's been a second bomblet. The bomblet's falling towards the vehicle. It explodes. the APC is now rushing away at full speed. Another Russian soldier went down, so it looks like there's maybe 4 wounded? Actually, 5 wounded. And I like how this guy's just gonna wander by like, oh, блядь, these guys are in a bad situation. Lucky I'm not them, блядь. We can now see the Russians having to fend for themselves with literally a perfectly fine guy just about a couple of yards away from them. With that, that's the end of the clip, and once again, an interesting look at what the 103rd Brigade has been able to accomplish with their existing drones and drone bomblets, as while they aren't the most accurate thing on Earth, and they can be improved upon, like we saw in the last video from United 24, they are accurate enough, and they are ensuring that damage is caused to Russian forces. With that, we're now going to be moving on into our next bit of Location Unknown news, where we saw a Russian armored personnel carrier. This, my friends, is a Russian armored personnel carrier. The finest and the newest in the world. The Russians actually said that they would take Ukraine in 3 days. It took them about 3 days to design this thing and finally have it on an assembly line with how simple it looks. Believe it or not, this isn't even military equipment. This is actually something that the title calls a walk-behind tractor. So let's pull it up. A walk-behind tractor. Tractor? Oh my.
Is that a tiller?
It's a tiller, pretty much. It's a tiller. They're using a tiller to move along. You know, Matthew, that's like someone using a lawnmower to move through a town. This is sad. And look, they're actually using the thing. And now they're like, oh, it's too
go though.
It's too heavy. They're like, we have to push it uphill. And they're having to push their own transport up a hill. And he's like, yeah, boom, boom, bleed. It looks like they might start going downhill now. So they're hopping back on.
They took the tiller implement off of it, and now it's just the tires and the drive like wheels on it.
Yeah, but look at the traction that thing's got. You can tell by how much, like, what direction the tiller's looking at and what direction they're actually going. It doesn't have a lot of traction. And now they're back on their way, bleed. And that's the end of the video. But I wanted to show y'all what the Grand Russian Army is able to do. A lot of people, even to this day, think that the Russians have not pulled out their latest and greatest stuff to fight with in this war. And I have to say they must have, because if they're having to start pulling stuff out like this, obviously they've run out of stuff. Now, I don't even think I have to go through the explanation of how they've lost all their good stuff or anything like that. This speaks for itself. This speaks volumes. So, yeah. That is what it is. Brand new Russian APC. I wonder if that's going to be called the BMP-7 or something. This is it's a great armored vehicle. But anyways, we're moving on from that little bit of news and on into our next bit where we saw the Ukrainians doing a little bit of nading. Oh, we're going to have to mute that because that's copyrighted music. But we can see the drone flying around with its bomblet in a cup. And we can see some Russian squads moving out of this opening in the wall and on into another building. And now they're dropping the F1 grenade, and it falls right near them, hitting, throwing up dust, throwing down a couple of guys, actually. And we now see the drone successfully flying away after good mission. And so very nice to see. Good to know that they were able to get them, take care of them, you know, in a good way, if you know what I mean. And with that, that's the end of the clip. And we're now moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown news, the Russian casualty report. And the casualties, believe it or not, have been high, although they seem low compared to yesterday, because yesterday is a day you just can't top. But 700 Russian soldiers killed over the past 24 hours. Quite a decent number, as a matter of fact. 9 armored personnel carriers also destroyed over the past 24 hours. Pretty wild, if you ask me. 7 supply trucks destroyed over the past 24 hours as well. 4 tanks, 7 artillery pieces, and 3 drones. No MLRSs, aircraft, helicopters, cruise missiles, anti-aircraft warfare systems, special equipment vehicles, or boats were sunk in the past 24 hours. However, it does appear that the frontline forces that are fighting in the areas of Bakhmut and Vulhedar are still taking a considerable amount of losses, as 700 soldiers killed in 24 hours is certainly not a low number, although it's not 1,030 something like we saw yesterday. That is still going to take the cake as the higher number, along with the vehicular losses that we saw yesterday. But all in all, not that bad. And I actually saw Matthew do it in the live chat, but could you give us a yee-haw for that, Matthew?
Yee-haw!
Yeah! And so with that, I hope that addresses the loss report fairly well. Also, Matthew, I just noticed that their aircraft here on the plane segment is actually, it looks like an F-15.
Somewhat, yeah, maybe.
Somewhat.
Kind of.
You know what this tank looks like?
What's it look like?
It looks like garbage. It looks like... Well, anyways, with that, we're now moving on from the casualty report. Pretty decent losses, I'll say that, and it's good to know that the Ukrainians are still whooping them. And with that, we're now moving on out of the casualty report and on to our next bit of location unknown news, where we saw a very interesting bomb run from the 30th Mechanized Brigade. This is in the Bakhmut area, although we couldn't really locate it that well in the Bakhmut area, so we put in the location unknowns. So here's the clip. We're going to mute it because they're playing that trap remix, that absolutely bookie. We can see here the drone looking into the Russian position here in the distance. Flying over. When you see a Russian right there, bleed. When you see him just standing there. It looks like he just spotted the drone. He did. He did a little double take. He's now doing his thing. They drop a grenade into the bunker. The Russian actually threw that one out. You can see it right there. It bounces in. The Russian grabs it, and you see it fly back out and explode out there.
It didn't work. It bounced kind of right back at him.
But the second one, bleed. That one was not salvageable. Went straight through the roof. And poof. Looks like we're going to be having cooked. Oh, he's getting away! He's getting away!
Oh, I thought it was actually him for a minute. I was going to say, what?
Dude, the Russian came out of that, man. He said, oh, bleed, my contract is over. I'm back to Moscow subway. Oh my gosh. Dude, that rat was literally smoking. Like, watch it, it goes crawling out. It's like a cartoon. Look, there's smoke coming off the thing. It's like, ooh, that was rough.
Man, that rat came out like, man, what's going on? I'm getting out of here.
Oh, man, dude, the rat came out, and it said this, man, you watch. Boop. That's it. I'm calling the homeowners association. This is too much. And then it just ran off. Oh, man. Somebody get that Russian. But anyways, now you see the drone flying off at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But that's in the clip. And it looks like they weren't able to get that Russian. It looks like he actually made it out of there. Although it looks like he was butt naked. His uniform wasn't on anymore. But somebody needs to go find that rat. Because I have a feeling, Matthew, if they find the rat, they're going to get to know exactly where all the Russian locations and positions are, what they're planning on, and what they're doing, and where the supplies are coming from. Because it's a rat.
He's going to rat.
He's going to rat on him, man. It's just going to happen. So with that, we're now moving on from the news of the 30th Mechanized, which was pretty fantastic, I got to say the least. Also, oh, man. People were flaming the Russian in the chat over that rat. Let's see. So, Humble Fong said it's a gopher. No way. That's the giant rat that makes all the rules right there, man. That was no gopher. So with that, we're moving on to our last clip where we can see the enemy of the rat, a comfy cat. That actually rhymes. I don't know why that wasn't supposed to rhyme, but the enemy of a rat, a comfy cat. Dr. Seuss is about to come out of the grave and write that one down in a book. But here we can see the comfy cat sitting in the helmet with its soldier friend. This thing is happy in its helmet. Very cute cat.
Very calm cat.
Very nice cat. I like it. And so with that's the end of that clip. I just had to say that's a very nice cat right there. Of course, obviously, Matthew, I think you know there's a joke there, but we can't say it. So I'll let the live chat fill that one in. But still, with that very neat cat, I gotta say it's very sweet looking. I like it, and it's got little clothes. It's wearing little clothes. Oh, that's just cute. There's no other way to put it. It's just a very cute cat. With that is the end of our location unknown news. And surprisingly enough, we had 7 pieces of location unknown news, and we went through all of them fairly quickly, actually. So with that, we're now going to be moving on into Kharkiv. Because in Kharkiv today, we also got some fairly interesting news. As you all know, Kharkiv was one of the main cities that was targeted at the very beginning of the invasion last year at about this time. Kyiv and Kharkiv were nearly encircled or in a siege. It was a very precarious situation, but luckily the Ukrainians, with their morale and also their advanced training and I guess you could say just overall high spirits, were able to turn the entire situation around and push the Russians out of this area probably about 20 days from now in last year's time. Kharkiv was heavily hit during that battle and after the battle by Russian forces, and for the most part, a lot of Kharkiv suffered even up until the present day, to the point that no such thing as a city streetlight had existed in Kharkiv ever since the beginning of this war, and the power systems were never really recovered in that area either to lead them to be able to keep these street lights on. However, today, for the first time ever, Kharkiv's city lights are back on, and we actually got a picture of the city streets with the city lights on and a massive flagpole with the Ukrainian flag on top. Really cool to see. And also, those spotlights, man, those things are bright. That's like a searchlight.
That's where most of the power in the city's going to, the spotlight.
No, I mean, and then the Russians on the other side of the border, Matthew, they're like, those Ukrainians, they have cold winter. And then you just hear this like 30 miles away. As those lights start turning on and they see that Ukrainian flag and they go, oh, suka, it's the flag, it's there, dang it. And then the Ukrainian man called Francis-Skotsky, he wrote the blue and yellow banner. But anyways,
maybe they can like project the Ukrainian flag like in the sky, like the Batman symbol, like so the Russians will see it.
Then the Bliet man shows up. Oh, Bliet, what's going on, Bliet? But anyways, very neat looking picture here. Great to know that they're finally getting their city lights back, and hopefully they'll have them around for a while, because of course it is dreadful to think of a world without electricity, and a lot of people think that, hey, you can bear that, but I promise you, we've lacked electricity, both Matthew and me, at one point in our life for nearly 3 weeks, I believe it was, Matthew. It was unbelievable. And while, like, literally the next block over had power, we didn't. So we had to go through that. It was burning hot, especially here in the south. It was in the middle of the summer. And it was dreadful. We suffered. So it's terrible to think about having the electricity out and being in the middle of, good lord, the middle of the winter, which is probably far worse to have no electricity in, freezing, not even being able to go out to the streets because there's no city lights. So once the night falls, there's really no way to see unless you have a car with headlights or you got a flashlight or something. So it's great to know that they were able to get the city lights back on and that things are going the way they should. And so, very nice to see. Very nice little picture. And with that, it's now time for us to move on out of Kharkiv and on into the northeastern area, because we're making our way down. I promise y'all, we are making our way down to show that Wagner is stealing people's ammo. Like, let me think of a good analogy here. I'm trying to think. You got any good analogies for how they're stealing, Matthew?
Not really.
Sadly, I'm drawing a blank right now. I've got to be honest with y'all, for some reason, I don't feel that great. I got a very bad headache, and I don't mean to tell y'all that, but if y'all are noticing that I sound a little detached, it's because I'm suffering with pain over here. But anyways, it's time for us to start getting on into the northeast while I struggle through the pain. But before we get into the northeastern area, and I also have to let y'all know this, we're not even going to be covering a lot of the front line tonight, because over the past 24 hours, not a single part of it has moved at all. Like, there's been no frontline changes at all over the past 24 hours anywhere, although Russian losses are incredibly high. So we're going to be going through the polls here real quick before we get into the northeastern news. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so for our first segment of questions and polls, we have 3 to address. And the very first one that I put up said, just 2 hours ago, Russia launched a wave of cruise missiles over Moldova, violating their airspace. And what are your thoughts? 64% said Russia is sending a message to Moldova, 6% said unsure, 3% said its path is just by coincidence, and 27% said there's no symbolism, it's just typical Russia. And I'm going to agree with the 64%. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think Russia is doing that to send a message to Moldova, also to instill panic in the population, which serves its own purpose for a psyop. And I think Russia is still trying to eye Moldova, although it's kind of gone a little quiet in the media, at least on my end it has. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'm going to see is probably trying to send a message to the Moldovans. But at the same time, they did do this a little while ago with a Russian missile actually falling short and landing in Moldova, but not exploding. So this isn't anything really new. It's just that it's reaching the news because, you know, the Moldovan fear thing has to be hyped up, kind of like how Belarus is going to invade any day now was hyped up all last year. I don't think the Russians will do anything in Moldova because, once again, there are some serious problems that they have to deal with to be able to conduct anything in Moldova. For example, where do they get supplies from? Where do they get new ammo from? And there's no way to get new ammo because they can't use Romania, NATO, they can't use Ukraine, they're at war with them. So that's it. There's no way to get any ammo or any support to the Russian soldiers in Moldova. There's no way to even get them out. They're stuck there. So I would have to say, probably nothing is going to happen. And the Russians would be playing it smart, actually, if they didn't do anything, because that would be almost an instant loss as soon as they try anything. Because unlike the Moldovans, which can rely on the West for support in that war if it was to begin, the Russians have nobody to count on, and there's no way to even get support there if they wanted. So I would have to say, the Russians are certainly not going to be doing anything in Moldova, but the cruise missiles are most likely some kind of attempt at a message in showing that they don't care about Moldova's sovereignty or their airspace, and they're more than willing to use their airspace as nothing more than a like a transit route for their missiles to get from point A to point B. And so with that, I hope that addresses that poll fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and the next poll says, in a declassified annual report, the U.S. intel suggests that the war will last many more years, and what are your thoughts? Pretty even results. 37% said, I agree, this is going to be a long-term war. 37% said maybe one more year, and they're a little bit shaky on that assessment. 12% said unsure. 14% said, I disagree, it will be months. And I think I would have to concur with the U.S. Intel report. It seems like this might be a long-term war. As long as Russia is willing to keep throwing people unnecessarily into this fight that they really don't want to fight, it's going to keep going, sadly. And Ukraine definitely is not going to give up. They're going to keep fighting for every inch, as they should. It's their land. So, sadly, I'm going with it's a long-term war. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'm going to have to say it's not a long-term war. It'll probably last maybe another year because the Russians are expected to go broke in a year. And I don't know how they will fight if they can't even afford to. Because once again, it's an entire expense of money, or a whole of money approach. If you see what I did there, Matthew. They have to spend money to be able to run their military, and if none of their soldiers can afford to be paid, either they have to give up on fighting the war, or they have to start printing more money. And once they start printing more money, the money starts to become worthless. And once the money starts to become worthless, you have to print more money to be able to pay these guys the rate that they should be paid. But then that means that the money becomes even more worthless, and you have to keep printing more money. Hence, look at Zimbabwe, which has had that problem every single time they've ever done anything with currency. Or Venezuela, for that matter, which also has done that as well, and their money is now worthless. That is a problem that the Russians will face if they try and fight longer than they can practically afford. So I would say that while they could say in their wildest dreams that the Russians could probably keep this thing going for a few years, on the military level, on the economic level, they simply cannot, and they just cannot afford to do something like that. So with that, I'll have to go with about a year, and with that, I hope we addressed that poll fairly well, and with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and our third and final poll of the first question segment says, sources familiar in U.S. intel say that the New York Times report on the Nord Stream attack was quote-unquote not made in confidence, and what are your thoughts? 65%, which is the overwhelming majority, said not shocking. The story seemed weird. 26% said unsure, 7% said, I'm still leaning toward it, and 2% said, I'm shocked about that. And I have to say, after we broke down the story yesterday and examined some of the details in it, it definitely came across as a little bit odd. And given the fact that so many people have come out and said that the intel that the assessment was based on was not made in confidence, and also several foreign leaders saying that we shouldn't jump to conclusions, I would tend to say that the report is pretty much discredited in my mind, although there might be some shred of truth to it. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say yesterday we went over it. It seemed somewhat implausible. We actually had some divers tell us, though, that it is possible to dive to that depth without any advanced equipment and do it, which is interesting here. But at the same time, it still seemed a little far-fetched to me, and it is interesting to hear that they're now saying that that doesn't really make a lot of sense to them. Because it doesn't. Like, I'm sitting there reading the poll prompt, and I'm like, that just didn't really make much sense. They're saying that 5 guys, burgers and fries, hopped on a yacht in Poland, sailed out into the middle of the Baltic, on a yacht, by the way, and I don't know what kind of swells you deal with in a storm on the Baltic, but, let's just say it's fair weather, all the way out into the middle of the Baltic, drop down to the Nord Stream, which is very deep underwater, and then blow the thing up. It seemed a little bit weird to me, and it is interesting here that people are now starting to say that wasn't really made in confidence. Fairly interesting here that we were on top of that yesterday and pointing out that it may be a little questionable. Of course, divers that actually do have diving experience said it is possible, but at the same time, it appears that the story isn't actually adding up, and they're now backtracking from that story, and they're going to come up with a new one soon. You see, that I believe, Matty, this is actually an important moment right here, because if we win, because I'm just going to say this, a lot of people always go with this channel, oh my god, what are you talking about? That isn't reported anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's reported somewhere or not, because that story was reported over a pretty decent amount of news sources yesterday, and also the day before, I believe, about how a pro-Ukrainian group had blown up the Nord Stream. And everyone was quoting that as a fact, and then we said on this channel, that doesn't really seem to be that plausible for a group to be able to do that and never be noticed, and it just happened. And now, today, it comes out that the story isn't exactly that accurate, and it really isn't what happened. So it's good to know that, we can generally stay on our tried and true rule that just because it is reported doesn't mean it's true. And also just because it comes from a quote-unquote authoritative source like, the New York Times, however authoritative that can get, that's like CNN or Fox. And, and if y'all haven't been paying attention to those two news companies, they're getting in a little bit of hot water right now. But moving on from that, it's good to know that we were somewhat right in questioning that story and not accepting it at face value. With that, I hope that does address that further. Also, Observer, I saw you talking about Aquamarine. I don't know why. I was like, why is she talking about Aquamarine? Anyways, with that, I hope that addresses that poll fairly well, because I found, and while divers did say, and I will give the divers credit, we did actually get some professional divers in the comment section a little later sharing information with us that is possible according to their experience and their abilities. But still, it was a good call on our end to question that information and say it may not be true because it turns out it's not true. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next poll if we have one. I know that's actually the last one, so I'm just saying that for the hell of it. So let's move on into the question.
All right, and it is time for the questions. And also, Enforcer, those mainstream news channels are going to hate the day they ever got embroiled in a lawsuit. Oh my God. Just when you think that mainstream media couldn't get worse, oh my goodness.
Yes,
but anyways.
Well, real quick, Matthew, real quick to address that. You see, what we have been saying, what I have been saying on this channel is don't trust the mainstream news, because there's someone behind the scenes on all these channels that are kind of pulling the strings, and they're just trying to push a narrative for ratings. And it's coming out now that, actually, I believe it had actually come out a little while earlier on one of the news organizations, but now it's coming out today on one of them, that the entire stories that were being pushed were just for the ratings. So, that's why we always say on this channel, don't trust the mainstream news, because unlike us, they actually have sponsors and, not sponsors. I'm not going to sit there and make sponsors sound evil or anything. They have ads, and they have ad slots they have to fill. And so they have to make it to where people want to watch, so those ratings are high, so that way they can keep on making money. We don't have to do that here because we get support from y'all, so that kind of negates that whole process. But still, man, of course we can't talk about it a lot. Also, everyone's saying, what is such and such channel? Everyone's guessing every channel. I believe at this moment, although one of them just jumped in the boiling water today, every channel recently is in the boiling water right now. It's just that some of them have been boiling a little longer than the others.
Yeah, it's mainly Fox right now. They're about to get slammed with a lawsuit pretty hard from the looks of it.
Well, we weren't supposed to actually say the channel, but with that, we are on to the questions.
Oh, trust me, everybody knows by now, so it's very few that don't. But anyways, we're moving on to our Super Chat questions, and up first, we have a super chat from BC Skyman, the channel legend, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much for that support.
And thank you.
He says, the Spam and Jam Fund. Great job, guys, and Slav Ukraine.
And thank you so much for the Spam and Jam Fund. Hopefully, we're not supposed to be having the Spam and the Jam at the same time, because I feel like that'd be gross. But if it's Spam and Jam separately, I'm more than happy. And I gotta thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. But what kind of jam, pray tell? What kind of jam would you like, Matthew?
I'll take strawberry.
But what brand?
Schmuckers.
I made you say it, Matthew. You're a real schmucker for that.
No, that's the Russians.
I'm just kidding, man. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support to the Spam and Jam Fund. That is brand new. And I got to thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And also, thank you so much for the support. It means a lot to us. And it also helps this thing to keep on rolling. And without y'all, this would have never been possible from the start. And of course, if y'all, and I have to say this tonight because everyone just brought this up, if y'all did not support us the way y'all do through super chats and just enjoying our show and allowing it to be run the way it is, we would have probably had to take it on sponsors. And then we would probably be sitting there and going, oh no, man, how do we survive without our sponsors? We got to say stuff to please our sponsors. And then that would be a whole entire other ordeal and situation. So I got to thank y'all so much for supporting us. So that way we can report the news the way it comes out without having to worry about any other strings attached. And so I got to thank you so much once again. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Red Lamani, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you, Red, for that support. He says, LSA Chef here, just got back from vacation in Mexico. Very nice resort in Mayacoba, Fairmont. Back to work, and keep it up, guys.
Mayacoba. Oh, here we go. I think that's it. Is this it?
Let's see.
We're sorry, but an error has occurred. Well, why don't we refresh then? Why don't we, huh?
That
okay.
might be it.
So hopefully
Oh,
this...
Fairmont, Mayacoba. There we go.
Dude, they got the
That
hotels up and everything. They got the hotels. Is this it? Because it says Playa. It says Playa. Playa del Carmen. And this is right near Cozumel, Mexico. Which we've been to before, way back when we were kids. But is this it?
I believe so. I believe the hotel is was the first one that list you were just looking at.
Let's see. Let's type it in again. Mayacoba. The Fairmont.
Yes.
Let's take a look at this thing. All right. Looking pretty ritzy.
Nice.
Nice hotel room. Nice.
Dang, $500 a night.
Dang, man. Dude, the cartel is making a killing on this one. Man, they come around for the protection fees. But holy moly. Man, this place is impressive. They even got the little sailing boat things. And look at this. Dude, this is actually really nice.
That is nice. It reminds me of like that Walt Disney World like hotel. Like I can't remember the name of it though.
The Wilderness Resort or the Wilderness Lodge? The Polynesian Resort. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, I think so.
Dude, this thing is something else. I mean, like, this is an impressive hotel. Man.
Very nice.
Very nice. Really nice. Holy moly. It's really nice. I have to say that. Also, what were you about to say, Matthew? I heard you breathing over there. Like, inhaling to
That was a sneeze. I just accidentally unmuted too fast.
Oh, man. But anyways, what the hell is this? This must be the dumping ground, just in case if, any managers of the hotels get a little, out of line. This is where they go. They go to the sand pit.
Dear.
But anyways, I thank you so much once again for the support. Welcome back to... Where did he say he went back to? It's in the United States, but where?
It was New York.
Remember,
he's the chef from New York. He makes the pizza.
Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. I thought he was in Boston. No, wait a minute. No, he's not. He's in Staten. Yeah, he's in Staten Island. Not Staten Island. Dagnabbit. He's here. Yeah. He's here. I sense it. He's right here. I don't know why in the hell I thought this was in Boston, because I was about to zoom into this exact same spot, but it's on Long Island, just in case any of you all want to go have a pizza that's Lee Spring Army approved. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope you had a fun vacation down there. While I absolutely forgot that you were actually in New York and not Boston, I don't know why I screwed that up. But still, thank you for helping the channel to keep on running. Thank you so much for the support, and welcome back to the United States. I hope you had a fun time down there. That was a nice hotel, and I don't know what the beaches look like, but I'm assuming that the beaches are pretty top-notch for a hotel like that to be there. So let's see. Oh, dude, this is like a beach in Florida, kind of, you know, like with the color, but you can see that seaweed crap, like in the I hate that crap, man. Like when you walk on it, it feels like your whole entire like body's being eaten by snakes. I hate that stuff. Like honestly,
I've heard Mexico's pretty bad for sharks.
Really?
That's what I've heard, especially off of Cozumel.
Man, Carnival's dropping off people in a death trap.
Yes.
And they sit there, have fun in the sun, and get some little sharks nipping at your toes. But anyways,
man, the way some of those Carnival cruises go, sometimes you want the shark.
Oh man, dude, sometimes, honestly, man, Carnival's got that anti-shark prevention method. They just start leaking the raw sewage out the sides of the ship, and the shark goes, ew, and then starts swimming away. It doesn't matter if the ship sinks; that sewage in the water will keep him away for sure. But with that, thank you once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and this is the last one of the first question segment, and it goes to Trister1, who puts in a $20 donation. And Trister, it's good to see you once again. He says, thoughts on the last 2 days in Tbilisi, unrest against the pro-Russian parliament, ...
Sadly, I hate to say this, Trister, I haven't been able to keep track of what's going on in Georgia much, because mostly I'm focusing on the frontline news and how the battles are evolving on the front lines themselves. But from what I understand there's been a law passed in Georgia by the government that is somewhat pro-Russian leaning, although at the beginning of the war, the Georgians were clearly anti-Russian. I do not know what has happened with the government in between then and now that's led to this change and led to this law being passed, but it appears that people have made it into the streets in protest of the law passed by the government, and things are getting a little heated, although I haven't seen any military action taken against the protesters. That's something that's actually normal in, I guess you could say, Central or Middle Eastern, Central Asian, or Eastern European countries, is for the military to be called out whenever things get really, really bad. We haven't seen that yet. So I have to be honest with you, from my basic understanding of what's going on, I support the protesters in Georgia that are standing up against the government, but then again, I don't know exactly what the law entails or what it really means.
From what I understand, it's any company in Georgia that has over 20%, I believe, of their funding is from foreign entities. They must register as a foreign agent, which is leading people to think that might be a way that the government's going to start controlling, I guess, the industry there. I'm not really sure about the end result of it.
Huh. Well, that's interesting because that means that the Turks could start having companies register as foreign agents for the Turks, and if the U.S. has any companies there that we have a little more than a 20% stake in, they'll also be listed as a foreign agent. I don't know how in the world that will play out.
I'm not really sure. I have a feeling it is some kind of indirect way for the Kremlin to start controlling what companies are doing in Georgia. But I'm not really sure. There's not really a clear explanation of what exactly it entails.
Yeah, there really isn't. That sounds interesting, though. And apparently it's causing massive uproar inside of Georgia. But we'll just have to see what happens down there. And considering that, I didn't know that extra detail about the law. We'll have to just keep an eye on the situation and see how it turns out. Because I don't really know what to make of that on a first hearing, or as they call it in the British Parliament, a first reading. Yes, let's read it to me. Read it to me, darling. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that at least the best we can from what we know right now. And thank you so much once again, Trister, for coming back. We're happy to have you back and happy you're watching. And thank you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because without folks like you, Trister, this channel wouldn't be possible. It's now time for us to move on, though. Sadly, yet surely. On back into the news and what's been going on the front lines. Now, funnily enough, I don't even have to flip over to Deep State today because literally nothing has changed. In fact, we're going to flip over to Deep State because I have to show you all this. The only thing that changed on Deep State is the color of the Russian line. It went from gray to red but nothing else changed. They only made a cosmetic change on the map. No frontline movement has actually happened, according to Deep State. So moving on up into the area of Kuzmivka, we did see some ongoing battle footage here, and we saw a failed Russian counterattack into Kuzmivka, and we also have the attached video showing the BMP-2 in this town getting destroyed later on, which is mentioned here in the title. So here's the clip. Oh, do y'all hear that? Mission Impossible is starting. Quick, everyone, get the popcorn. Meanwhile, these Russians, Matthew, are walking around, they're going, oh man, I get no respect around here. No respect. I went to my commander the other day. I said, hey, where's the pay? He said, oh, buddy, you got nothing coming. Oh man, it gets worse from here, man. The other day, I was walking through the artillery fields. The artillery started firing at me, and I said, hey, what are you doing? He said, oh man, I'm just trying to wipe you off the face of the earth. Oh man, I get no respect around here. It's terrible. Oh, it's bad. And now we can see them running, well, really more like limping away and falling as they run from the artillery blast. Wait a minute, this guy obviously crapped his pants. This guy right here, no shrapnel wound, but watch how he runs after the shell explodes. Clearly crapped his pants. there's crap at the bottom of those pants. When you see the Russians crawling, when you see one guy throw a helmet or something like that, we now see more of them running where one of the shells exploded previously where crap pants walked. We can now see a bunch of them crawling. You now see them moving through their trench works. These guys actually have winter camo, which is a little rare. You now see them writhing around, moving on. And we can see some kind of burning happening in a tree line near their trench works. And we can see 2 Russians there in their trench. At least we think they're Russians. They may be Ukrainians. We're not really sure. Now, I believe those are Russians because their little markers red. We can now see a Russian BMP-2 moving into the town and firing onto those Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are not even visible in the film. I don't even think they're actually firing onto the Ukrainians. But we can see the BMP-2 firing point-blank range. We're now watching a drone. We don't know if it's Russian or... Well, this is definitely a Ukrainian drone. Now dropping F1 grenades right onto the Russians. What the hell? Dude, the bomblet blew up. We're right there. And then he does this. Is it you? And then he just looks at me.
What was that?
He's like, oh, hello. So then the drone moves on. We see a Russian here hiding behind a tree. We now see some artillery hitting that tree line. You see one Russian right there. He's like, oubliez mes knees. They're gone. YouTube sensor got me. We see the artillery landing right on top of them. You know, we can see a Russian run from village. Militis Regun. Or Regum, or whatever, you know what I mean.
I like that little crest. It reminds me of like the Welsh one a little bit.
It kind of does. It kind of does. I would say something in particular, but that'll actually single out our family. Anyways, with that, we're going to be moving on from that and into the next clip, because we actually saw that little BMP-2 and Kuzmivka get destroyed later on. Here it is. Moving around town with no infantry support, of course. You know, the Russians can't use armor in any intelligent way. It must be in the stupidest ways imaginable. And you see it driving through the town, willy-nilly, moving on down the street. We now see it doing its thing, firing point blank into the buildings again. And just look at it go, ripping up his Vadim do such good job. He's gone. Now we can see BMP-2 driving around village. We can see it taking left turn on Turnpike, bleed. And now we can see them, they've crawled out, wait a minute, they sat in their tank, Matthew, and you had the New Yorker voice. Listen, George, we're not even going down the right road. Oh, damn it. And then he starts backing up.
No, they're really saying, did you see that?
Oh! Man, that tank got roasted. Now they're just going in reverse. And the tank came, well, the BMP came to a stop. Thing's gone. You know, I don't think I have to say that. That thing is roasting. And I don't know if the crew's roasting because it looks like they hit reverse and then never came back off of it. So the entire thing was knocked out. Good on the Ukrainians, because that was a pretty nice little shot right there. And that's one thing that you won't see the Russians show. But anyways, that's the end of the clip. Once again, you can see another failed Russian assault on Kuzmivka today. And with that, we're now moving behind the lines to this little video of a Ukrainian FPV drone, also known as a first-person view drone, hitting a toss while it was firing. Kill this shit chili from Wendy's because we're going to be blowing at the butt. So, drone comes flying around. We can see the smoke plume from the toss. It flies through it. And they smell a gunpowder. It flies right into the toss launcher. Right there. And the camera feed's gone. But it blows up the toss. That's the end of the clip. Very nice to see. And always good to know the toss is never safe because the Ukrainians are just a few yards away from tossing a kamikaze drone right into the launcher. And so with that, more scrap metal for the Russians. Well, I mean the Ukrainians. Oops, sorry, that's actually Russian scrap metal for Ukraine. We're now going to be moving on from the Svatove area because, of course, nothing in frontline changes has happened over 24 hours anywhere, which is impressive, by the way. Moving on down to the area of Kremenna and Svatove, we also saw Ukrainian artillery hitting the Russians down here. And it was hitting it quite nicely. We're going to have to move over to Twitter. By the way, have y'all peeped the Twitter?
Peep that Twitter. It's a good place. Real news, real quick. Most trusted name in news.
Oh no! Oh,
Who says that?
It's
Who says that?
Oh, I don't know. It's probably that company that's already been had for saying things that their reporters don't really believe in, along with the other company, and then soon they'll probably get sued too, and it'll come out on them. Let me tell y'all something. We take strikes equally, and while it's and I'll say this, while it's Fox's turn right now, CNN is just around the corner. Y'all be seeing that probably in about a half year at least. So anyways. We see a Russian artillery piece bleed sitting there in tree line, and it's about to get hit by the Ukrainian artillery right here any second now. And I don't know what the hell that was. It almost gave me an epileptic seizure, but we can see that the artillery piece appears to have been hit. Smoke's coming off of it, and that's the end of the clip. Not the clearest video that we've seen, but nonetheless. Wait a minute, hang on. Hang on. Wait a minute. I just said not the clearest video we've ever seen. We couldn't even tell if the M777 was destroyed, and there's the catch. This is actually a Russian clip, I believe. This is a Russian clip that I've mistaken for a Ukrainian one. And I was sitting there thinking, Matthew, at the end, and I caught it. I was like, we didn't really ever see it get hit. I was like, that's kind of weird. And then I noticed at the bottom, when it went back to the start, it says, Artilleryskaya, let's see, Ustranovka M777 VSU, which is Ukrainian Armed Forces. So the Russians have doctored up a little clip of an M777 supposedly getting hit. And this is the interesting thing about it. We never really saw it get hit. We only saw smoke. You see that right there? Look, watch. We don't see it get hit here. We get an epileptic fit instead. Nothing happened. And then it just cuts to smoke.
Huh.
You know,
that's suspicious. And also they're adding all these like graphics and stuff over it to make it seem more dramatic than it really is.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is that I thought it was Ukrainian. I was about to call the Ukrainians out. I was about to say, this is about the most indescript clip I've ever seen of them hitting an artillery piece. And then it replayed, and then I saw at the bottom it was supposedly an M777. So very nice Russian propaganda. Back at it again, making us think that they're doing way better than we actually think they are, and they're still not able to pull together a good propaganda flick. So nice. Good thing we caught that, because I was about to be like, it was like I was about to start sitting there and blasting the Ukrainians that made this clip, because they're always good at making incredibly good clips that actually show that they're destroying vehicles. This one, if I credit it to the Ukrainians, one, it was Russian, and two, it didn't even show the artillery piece getting destroyed. So absolutely pointless. Great to see the propaganda machine is still churning at it over there in Russia. And with that, it's now time for us to move on from the Svatove and Kremenna area and on down to the area of Yampil, where we saw some HIMARS launching off their rockets. And Aaron Lowe said, call him out. Call him out.
Call him out.
We can see the HIMARS launching in the distance.
Поїхали, і фари, блядь, ще з включеними фарами.
Там же всіх охороняють, блядь.
А чого так тихо, блядь?
You know, for some reason, this is just nice to watch. Like, it's twilight nearly. The little rockets are just launching in the distance. Very nice aesthetic, I gotta say. And now you can see them driving on along. And that's the end of the clip. But really nice to see that the HIMARS are still out there at work. And also, it's just such a nice looking video. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a painting that they're watching. But with that, we're now moving on from the area behind the line in the area of Svatove and Kremenna, and now we're moving on down to Bakhmut. You know, I would give y'all a frontline analysis if I could, but nothing has happened. So there's really no way for me to give a frontline analysis because no frontline movement has occurred. So we don't even know where the Russians are trying to attack out from right now because they're just sitting still. But one thing we do know is that the Fighting 93rd did slam a sweet round right into the Wagner unit. And we got the clip right here. Let me get rid of that. Here we go. When you see them hitting the Russians right there, very nice to see. Smoke rising off the building. Russians crying. We can now see the drone looking into the distance. We can see some little heated targets down there, but we can see the artillery land over here and now over there. Now you can see one hit near the bottom of an apartment building. And they are slamming that building. The Russians must be inside of it. We can now... Oh, they got fried. Here we go. And you're telling me a shrimp fried these Russians? So here's the Russian squad right here, running down the road. Artillery hits right there, and they all go hitting the floor. Except for the guys way in the back. For once, we saw a little bit of spacing, and it looks like it worked for the Russians.
What in the hell is that thing running across the ground so fast?
I have no idea. I was wondering what that was.
That can't be a dog running that fast.
Dude, that thing was the Ukrainian, like, Sasquatch. That thing said,
man,
boom,
that thing
man!
was hauling ass across the road.
Dude, wait a minute, no, man. I realize what that is now. Hang on, let me go back. That right there is the Amazon Prime delivery man.
Oh,
I gotta fulfill
Look
my
at
quota.
that thing go.
Dude, that is not a dog. That's got to be something else.
No.
It's going like 50 miles an hour. We can now see the Russians just kind of chilling there. A second round hits them, call it a double tap. Everyone's saying a dog. Kenny knows Skin said a RoboCop. That's probably not it. He was a little slow.
That's the fastest dog. That must be a greyhound or something.
Oh, look, Matty, look. It's the Seven Dwarfs. Hi-ho, hi-ho. Here comes the Disney attorneys. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And they're moving into the next house. And they're finally... Oh, look, here they come again. In a neat little row. No spacing at all. They're all on top of each other, so it's just a little conga line. We can see an artillery shell explode a little bit behind them. Now they're starting to lose each other a little bit, like they're slowing down and speeding up in certain places. Now they're getting into the house again. Actually just standing alongside the house. Now they're crossing a street. Artillery shells are landing a little closer to them now. And the pressure is on as the unit continues to try and outrun the artillery, but sadly they can't outrun the peering eyes of the Ukrainian artillerist and the drone, as the artillery rounds are now landing practically on top of them. In fact, they are landing on top of them. That's the house they're at. Ooh! I see some Reese's Pieces down there, Matthew. And so with that, that's the end of the clip. But you can see that the Ukrainian artillerists in the 93rd Brigade are certainly giving the Wagner no breaks. I get no respect around here. Oh, man. Oh, man. But sadly, I hate to tell you all this. Russian forces were able to make one advance today. And while it wasn't shown on the frontline footage, we'll probably get it a little later. We've seen Russia's finest soldiers, Matthew, actually be able to push down the western ridgeline and encircle a Ukrainian position. And we got video footage from that Ukrainian unit today before they were wiped out. And it's a incredibly sad video, but it shows the fighting Ukrainian spirit and also shows the literal cream of the crop. The Russians have finally been able to whip out the cream of the crop of their forces in the area of Bakhmut and actually use them. And I'm talking about the Russian, I guess you could call them nearly super soldiers, the Spetsnaz. We actually saw them in action today, and sadly they encircled this unit. So let me show you real quick. And I gotta tell you, man, this video will make you say, "Holy cow!" I mean, like it's crazy. So here's the clip. You see the Ukrainian recording his last message.
Oh, I know what this is.
And lo and behold, holy cow! It's the Spetsnaz.
Oh gosh. I put this on the Twitter earlier. Is that where you saw it?
No, I actually saw this when I was browsing for the news, but they're completely surrounded by these cows. Dude, why are they like going to this trench in a circle though? Like, I don't get it. Also, by the way, I'm just kidding with y'all, so don't take it seriously. The Ukrainians are perfectly fine on the Western Ridge right now. But why are they encircling this trench? It's like the cows are practicing squad level tactics.
Yeah, seriously. They're gonna go there and try to like get all the information they can from the Russian cow.
Yeah, Matthew, that cow's about to come up and go, "Do you know what the Kadyrovites did to me?" It was terrible.
Oh,
But with that, that's the end of the clip. And also, the Christian said, "What's up with the bad Rodney impressions?" "Oh, man, I get no respect around here. I try and do a Rodney. And you know what people say? Hey, he's not even a real guy. Oh, man, I get no respect around here. Even for being me. Oh, man, it's bad. It's tough. Real tough. Oh." But anyway, moving on from the Ukrainian troops being encircled by the cows. And I got to tell you, that is a very bad situation. If it got any worse, I'd have to say the Ukrainians might have to start getting to the beef of the matter. And so with that, we're now moving on into the city of Bakhmut, where we also saw a Russian and Ukrainian have a chat. Now, I'm going to have to copy the link on this one because there's a translation in the description below on this. So let me go and paste it here. Let me go put it here. Let me go take it and then put it on my second screen. So I won't be able to see any of y'all for the next bit. But I'm going to read off to y'all what this guy is saying. So let me get it all set up for you. It's only 1 minute and 25 seconds long, but let me explain what's happening here so that way none of y'all are that confused, because it's a little confusing without any description. What we're looking at right now is a wall, of course, and right on the other side of this wall is a Russian soldier. The guy filming this video is a Ukrainian soldier. They're currently fighting in Bakhmut right now, and the Russian soldier is, of course, attacking the Ukrainian soldier who's in this house. The Ukrainian actually starts to talk to this guy, and this is the following conversation, the exact way it came out. So, the Russian outside, and let me start right when he starts talking. "Brother, I at least came here to make things right." Ukrainian says, "So you came to my house to make things right, yeah? You came to my house where there are my rules to tell me how to live? I'm in my home, not in yours. Not in your kitchen room. I'm not telling you where to shit and throw the trash. You're trying to tell me how to eat, how to shit. I'm at home. You're not." The Russian says, "Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but if the people, blah, 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 blah," explosion in the background. In the neighbor, Ukrainian says, "Evan, think about it. You're living in an apartment block. Go to your neighbor, beat him saying, 'You're eating wrong, B, and your effing kitchen is now mine just because you're eating wrong.' Is that normal?" Russian says, "Well, I can understand where you see it." The Ukrainian says, "Well, that's how I see it all. You effing came to us to make things right your way." Russian says, "Shut your effing face." Oh, yeah, shut your... What would you do with yourself? Ukrainian said, "Don't worry, we can beat up those that need it. We don't shy away from it." The Russian says some unintelligible stuff. The Ukrainian says, "And would have done the same to Yanukovych, but the effort escaped." And so that's the end of the clip, but you can see it right there. The Russians and the Ukrainians actually had a not really a face-to-face meeting here in the middle of Bakhmut, but a little bit of a conversation. I got to tell you, Matthew, it feels like the Ukrainian is talking to a brick wall.
I guess you could say that.
I guess you
That
could
would
say
qualify as a Russian.
literally, Matthew, it's the wall saying the Ukrainian is like talking to a brick wall, man. But with that, that's the end of the video, and that gives you an idea of what the Ukrainians think and the Russians think that are fighting right now in Bakhmut. But, you know, of course, situation is as normal. No frontline changes, though, and I don't know if he was able to grease that Russian later. So with that, we're now moving on to our next clip in the middle of Bakhmut, where we saw a soldier from the 93rd Brigade wish all of the women of the, the wives and of the soldiers, the female soldiers of the 93rd Brigade, a happy Women's Day. Because it is Women's Day. And so, here's the clip. It's March 8th. I want to wish all the Goyles from the men of the 93rd Brigade a happy holiday. The city of Bakhmut is under control of the Ukrainian armed forces. Everything will be Ukraine, and Putin is a scumbag. So that's the end of the clip. And once again, really nice to see that the 93rd is wishing the best on this interesting holiday, and of course, always putting out that Bakhmut is still held by Ukraine. With that, we're now moving on to one of our other and last clips from the center of Bakhmut, where we saw a Ukrainian tank doing its usual of rolling up to houses and blasting the windows out. Also, we can hear that same freaking song. Anyways, we're seeing the Ukrainian tank roll up, and we can see that it's here to disperse the Russian bloc party. How will it do it? That way. The Russians are dispersing, more or less in multiple pieces, but they are dispersing nonetheless, and it looks like the bloc party is over. Oh, look at that. You see them just blasting away. Yeah, Matthew, I don't think Russian frat bros survived. I don't think they're there anymore. That's the end of the clip. But it looks like Phi Alpha Sigma is eating the dust, or whatever the hell the Russians have for the Black Party was ripped apart, literally, by a tank. With that, we're now going to be moving on from this Ukrainian tank at work inside of Bakhmut, and we're now going to be moving on out of Bakhmut entirely. There was no news that came from the southern flank today that we can tell from in video, so that is what it is. Not really a lot to add there, and of course no frontline changes that we can actually speak of. Moving on into the area of Pantyalomanivka, we saw a commissar had a chat with his soldiers. So let's listen to the chat. It's an interesting chat. I said, do you realize we'll all die there in the first or at best second fight? So what? You're not first, you're not last. Or how the Donetsk troops are running away? They put our boys into positions as soon as possible and run away themselves. These from Kaliningrad came as meat. They are their own words. Do you do what you want? I'm definitely getting out of here. They divide the army. When the worker with the instructor, I asked him because it bothered me, why are you dividing us? He said, I always will. You or you. Is this your home? No, but it's my house. I'll tell you how it feels when you run to their positions under machine gun fire. Thank God nothing happened, and then bam, a grenade drops from a drone. You sit there, smoke 8 cigarettes because your hands are shaking. Yes, I'm not 20 years old, but hands are shaking. It's scary at any age from this shit. And they tell you that you need to withdraw after a few days under the same shit, gunfire and shelling and bleed, you know. But they, possibly Ukrainians, sit there shamelessly with all vehicles, thermal imaging. What is the problem for them to come and throw grenades at us? How are you going to feel when you kill the whole company in a week? Officer says, what suggestions do you have? Send us to territorial defense, as we're meant to be. Blah, 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 unintelligent. When a village is taken, we go there, entrench and stay there as we're meant to be in territorial defense. We'll stay there, and if there's no breakthrough, then we move forward. That's what we're meant to do, but instead we do a effing recon by fire. Are we specialists or something? You don't want us to refuse? We better go to effing jail. Put everyone in jail. We'll stay there. No one will go there to attack. How long is it? 5, 7 years? 10? Don't give a shit. At least we'll be alive and not giving the rest of life away. For whom? For what? We're sent to sure death. Again, we do not refuse to fight in the territorial defense as we were drafted, although they clearly just said that. But we refuse to assault. Put us in jail. Seriously, everyone. I have no rights to put to jail. Let those who have come. My life is dear. I'm being serious. I'll be earning money in jail and sending to my family. That's not how that works, bro. They killed the company there. We're done. I heard you. Your position is a bit weak. That's what the officer said. Let's make it stronger. Tell us how.
The hell is this conversation?
We won't go there. Oh. Put us all in jail. Oh, I wasn't saying that to you, Matt. If you try putting us there sneakily, this will be effed. This will not be forgiven. We will clash, if you understand, if you feel me. We're ready for it, honestly. Everyone ready? Yeah, man, yeah. Ready to clash right here, and I tell you, it will be effed. Because we are so effing angry at them after the death of our comrades. And after this, us them divide. They call us Ruski. Bring professional soldiers here, PMCs. We'll walk if we need to. Fight yourself. We'll even leave on taxi. They said we would get our military ID documents at the end of the special operation. There is zero trust. Like yesterday, one guy went outside, sat on a bench, pointed the gun at his head, and blew his brains out. Oh. Do you know about this? Local? No, ours. Yes, ours from Kaliningrad. His head is over the place. What last name? I don't know. Astra? He said he's from Kaliningrad or something, but his head's gone. He can't ask me anymore. Right in the forehead. Even the medic was surprised. Right in front of our mechanic's eyes. He was walking saying, I'm sick of it, sick of it. Got on his knees. We heard the shot at 4 a.m. in the morning, in the middle of the night, but somehow everyone saw it. The whole platoon was taken to Commandant's office. We came at night. What's this, 1939? NKVD? Black trucks? Let's go. Everyone is aware. I'm not saying it to dramatize, but if you put us down here, if you shoot us, if you interrogate us, half will open up their veins. Do you want suicide here? I'm not saying... Well, it's the same line for some reason. I thought I switched. Sorry. Have you seen that pool of blood? I came from the zero line, walked past, see a pool of blood and a broken helmet. The person didn't go into assault, didn't go and press the trigger. Is that normal? Because he knew where he was going. It's not the first time. What do you think we should think about that? So your main problem is that you were not trained? I'm still not understanding. We have a lot of problems. We've expressed them a lot of times, man. Please understand us. Let us rest. We had such a mess here yesterday. People came from the zero line and were not allowed to sleep. People in masks broke in, almost taking out the doors, and then again and again, there's little damn vandals robbing us and annoying the guys who haven't slept for 4 days so much. So we don't want to talk right now. So that's the end of the clip.
Man, this is a Russian level of intelligence conversation that was going on in this video.
I've got to tell you, they know how to argue. That's the art of the deal. It's the art of the deal. Nobody knows how to argue like the Russians do. It's unbelievable.
I'm just shocked that they threatened to leave in a taxi. On a taxi.
Yeah,
like
on a taxi.
What are they trying to do? Getting one with Tony driving it? They want to get killed out there?
Sitting on a taxi. Let's see if there's any pictures of that. Sitting on the taxi. No, I don't see people like riding on top of the taxi. This is the first confirmed time in history we've ever heard anyone say they're going to ride away on the taxi, not in the taxi. So very interesting to note that. And also another interesting thing to note is that apparently it's just common for Russian soldiers when they're told you're being turned into an assault unit. They go, assault, yes, and then just, end it. So that's interesting to hear. Didn't know that was happening. And it looks like these guys are straight up mutinying. They're not saying Well, they were saying we're not refusing to fight, but they straight up were. You could hear it clearly, and they were saying it. So with that, we're now moving on from the Donetsk news, well, at least in that area, because it's getting even more interesting in the Donetsk region, because we saw some guys in a basement. Apparently, they've been put down here because they've been refusing to fight. So let's put the caption up and let's read what it says. Now we're back in jail, said 70 recruit inmates being held in Donetsk's basement for the second day. They were sent there after a dispute with the command. The men claimed that while still in prison, they tried to be better citizens and follow the terms promised to them by the Ministry of Defense. Bled, what is happening here, Bled? Just a collision, Bled. What? They're in a basement, though. Anyways. You can't understand, Bliet. Leg on leg, Bliet. Leg on the head, Bliet. Piesdiek, Bliet. I'm not even doing this, y'all. This is literally a translation. Ukraine, Bliet.
Oh no, they're the dog kennel.
Uh-oh. Here we are sitting. We were brought here by the 3 school buses. And there are 4 of us left. There is no wash basin. There is no toilet. There is no soap, no towel, no slippers. They didn't take us anything. We spent 23 days. Ukraine. We were brought here from Donetsk. It's not clear why. Supposedly we refused to carry out combat missions. And we came here voluntarily. A group. Here, we are in Voronezh. We were told we have a contract. What are we doing? We are in prison again. What is not clear? What do they want to do with us? For what reasons? Without giving us an explanation, without giving us any documents. Nothing. We are in the zone of military operations. No matter how the action should be in it, but for some reason, we are sitting in prison. The Ministry of Defense was responsible for us. It may not be aware of us. For some reason, that guy's voice was so deep, Matthew, I was wanting to do this the whole time. Luke, I am your father. No! I was wanting to do that. It's like, dang, it's the voice changer, of course. But still, fairly interesting to hear that apparently the units that are mutinying are actually being dealt with and thrown in some kind of slammer. So it looks like the Russians are paying attention to those clips, just not in the way those soldiers hope they are. With that, we're now moving behind the lines, where we also saw a Ukrainian soldier firing a manpad at a missile. So here's a clip. See them pointing out what they're trying to fire at. Now spooling up the manpad. You see it flying across right there. And then you see him fire the missile. But sadly, we see a second one launched as well, but sadly we don't get to see whether those missiles hit the target or not. But still, very interesting to see them firing into the distance, and hopefully they were able to shoot down that missile. With that, we're now moving on back into the front lines, into the area of Marinka, where we also saw an ATGM hit a Russian BMP-2. And this is a video we haven't seen in a while. This is actually a Stugna attack. We haven't seen one of these in about a month.
Oh, Stugna.
Stugna. We can see the Stugna firing. We can see it traveling on its way. We can see the BMP right out there in the distance. The crosshairs are on it. We see a hit. And I've never heard that one before. But that BMP is smoking, and it is out. Ooh! Turret toss on a BMP? Well, they got it, that's for sure. And great to see that they're still taking out armored personnel carriers in Marinka. Enough so that the Russians still have not been able to make any ground anywhere today. That we're now moving on.
So Enforcer, I don't mean to interrupt you real quick, but we do have some somewhat interesting news here, and take this with a grain of salt because it's happening as we speak. It looks like the entirety of Ukraine is under a massive cruise missile attack, And Operator Starsky says that some sources are alleging that ballistic missiles have been used, but he can't confirm that. That was put out 6 minutes ago. So very, very recent, and I can't find any official sources on it, but that's concerning to say the least.
I believe ballistic missiles have been used before.
Ballistic missiles? Are you sure about that?
Well, let me type them in real quick and let me see. Russian ballistic missiles. The missiles of Russia. Yeah, the Iskander is a ballistic missile, and they've been using those ever since the start of the war.
Interesting.
Yes, yeah. So, like, I heard that, I was like, that's not new. I was like, they've been using Iskanders for a while. So yeah, it's largely a normal missile attack as far as they go. Nothing we've heard is new. Even if they use a hypersonic, they've used those a few times before. So hopefully they're able to just intercept.
They don't use those often though. Like, when's the last time they used them?
The last attack.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, they're always shooting off Iskanders. Like Iskander ballistic missile. I'm probably going to get a little bit of operational history in Ukraine here. Let's see. Russia. Let's see. In 2022, Russia launched several Iskander missiles into Ukraine as part of their assault. Let's see. Employed decoys to confuse air defenses. Believed the technology was kept a closely guarded secret. In April, 23rd of April, Russia deployed more units equipped with Iskanders to Belgorod from the border of Ukraine. Let's see here. I think we can probably find some more information on them. The Iskander in Ukraine. Iskander was used against Ukrainian military right here on December 12th of 2022. Also on February 1st of 2023. It says that Belarus has Iskanders. Let's see here. December 24th. Let's see. It looks like it's talking about just the Iskander in general. But you can see that Iskanders have been used a fairly decent amount before.
Interesting. And also, it looks like they also shot down a missile. I'm not sure if it was a ballistic one, but they shot down a missile heading toward Kyiv successfully, so it did not hit.
Oh, nice. That's good to hear. And I guess we'll just have to wait for more news to come out at the end to see how unsuccessful the strike was for the Russians. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the news in Vulhedar. Because Vulhedar, of course, has had no frontline changes as of right now. But we did see in Mikilske that the Wagner is apparently stealing the ammo of the units that are fighting in Vulhedar. And we saw someone complain about that today from the 136th Brigade, who is there to also start filling in the gaps from the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade that's largely been decimated over the past few months of fighting in this area. And so, here's the clip. We're the servicemen from 63 354th Unit. On the 136th Separate Motorized Brigade, currently located near Vulhedar, would like to pay your attention to the lack of ammo. We'd like to record this and appeal in advance as it is to us who will be replacing the 155th Marine Infantry Brigade in order to restore staffing. It will be us conducting offensive operations in order to also avoid going for restaffing as leadership calls it. We need ammo of all calibers to provide proper fire control. Right now, almost all rounds go to Artemis to the PMC Wagner, who can expend a week's worth of ammo in a day, which we cannot allow to ourselves. Now our conscience is clear, and in case of a repeat of the fate of the 155th Brigade, you will know the reason. Well, by golly, I thought last week, Matthew, the Wagner had no ammo. Where is all the ammo going now to the Wagner?
Well, maybe they finally got answered the call. They wanted some ammo, they got some.
I'll tell you what.
I seriously doubt it.
I'll tell you what Prigozhin did, Matthew. He went up to those Russian logisticians and supply officers, and he said, "Hello, boys. Would you like some delicious samovar in jar?" And they went, "Oh, bled." And then they started shipping the ammo up there to his little unit. But interesting to see, and I think that may show that we'll start seeing a dying down of activities or a massive amount of casualties in the Vulhedar area as they have almost no ammunition to pursue any offensive with. Moving on to our next clip, we also saw a large explosion occur in the Vulhedar area. О,
Ебать, смотри.
ебать.
Смотри, зацени.
Там мы только что мимо проходили, как раз над нами в углах.
Ебать, бля.
And with that, that's the end of the clip. But very nice to see that this little thing went blowing up. And you can see it's in Vulhedar right up there at the top. It says right there, Vulhedar. So very nice to see. Very happy to know. I don't know what that thing is blowing up. It's not a tank, most likely an MLRS or something similar. But very nice to know that they were able to get it and take care of it. We're now moving on a little behind lines.
Also, I'm seeing a lot of people ask if we can potentially go and see a live footage from these cities where the attack is going on, if we have that.
We probably can, but we're going to make sure to get through this news first, so that way we don't keep people waiting, because the videos usually that are live are usually almost completely inactive. Like, you might sit there for an entire 2 hours before anything happens at all, and then, you know, it only happens for a few seconds. But we'll be trying to get to that here in a little bit. With that, we're moving on into the next bit of news, showing a Ukrainian tanker that is covered in mud. So we're gonna mute this real quick. But this guy, he's a little muddy, to say the least. Look at him. This guy is muddy. The whole tank's covered in mud. He's the mud man, Matthew. And so with that, that's the end of the clip. But very nice to see that the Mudmen are getting on their way to Vulhedar, and hopefully we'll be able to help push the Russians back, as a large amount of armor is being used in that area. And so with that, we've now made it through all the frontline news. I want to make sure to get to that before we try and get to a live video. So now, if we have any live videos we can go to that you know of, or anyone in the live chat said, Matthew, do you know one?
No, I think there should be, if you punch in on Google, like live cam UA, it should pop up something.
Let's see. Live cam UA. And let's see if we can find something. Webcam taxi sounds a little questionable. Skyline webcams.
Might want to punch in like the city live cam, maybe.
Let's see here. City live cam. This one's in Odessa. Let's see here. Kyiv webcams. Webcam taxi again. Is webcam taxi good? I don't know. Because I don't want to click on anything that's going to say, "Hey, you have 17 viruses on your computer," and then, you know, take over our system. So I don't really know what's good or not. If someone could give us an idea of a live video to go to, I'd be more than happy to. So we'll just be sitting here and waiting to see if anyone can give us a recommendation, whether that's a good website or not. Don't really watch live cams a lot. Usually there's not a lot happening live for us to watch them.
Let's see here.
And Adolphin Hortler is saying the missile attack is already over. It seems as though a lot of people are saying it's already over. So let's see.
Can't really find anywhere off the bat. Let's see. I'm looking through the chat here to see if they said, let's see. Oh goodness, never mind. I can't say that on the air. But Gregory says they are not working, and it could be the case due to the missile attack, but I don't see like a pretty good source to go look for webcams right now for that.
All right, so with that, it looks like we probably won't be looking at webcams, and also it seems like some people are saying that the missile attacks are already over, and they most likely are. The missiles are usually only airborne in the eastern side of Ukraine for maybe 30 minutes at the most, and maybe an hour to an hour and a half in the west. So it's probably already ended by the time the stream has started and has gotten to this point. So without further ado, we've actually reached the end of tonight's frontline news. And so it's now time for us to go to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 378 of the news of the war in Ukraine. And so, without further ado, here is President Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
Здоров'я, шановні українці. Короткий звіт про цей день. Провів нараду з військовими, з розвідкою. Фронт, наша оборона, битва за Бахмут, увесь Донбас – це перший пріоритет. Робимо все для того, щоб наші тактичні кроки спрацювали на стратегічне завдання, на успіх України в битві за всю тимчасово окуповану територію нашої держави. Я дякую кожному нашому воїну, який бореться за Україну, за своїх побратимів. Дякую усім, хто захищає позиції, усім, хто відбиває штурми, усім, хто допомагає своїм вогнем тим, хто поруч з ним веде бій. Дуже важливо, що фронт – це не якась лінія на мапі, це люди, це стійкість, це готовність битися, це опора одне одному, це допомога одне одному. І це допомога всього нашого народу тим, хто зараз в бою. Допомога від усіх, хто забезпечує логістику для фронту і для бійців, від усіх, хто волонтери для наших героїчних бойових бригад та інших підрозділів Сил оборони. Від усіх, хто працює і сплачує податки, щоб Україна могла вистояти. Кожен день на всіх рівнях в Україні має бути корисним для нашої оборони. Готуємо і нові, цілком справедливі кроки нашої держави проти тих в Україні, хто ще намагається послаблювати державу, підважувати міцність нашого суспільства. Невдовзі відбудеться нове засідання РНБО. І є відповідні проекти санкційних рішень. Внутрішня безпека України – теж перший пріоритет. Сьогодні у Києві з візитом був генеральний секретар ООН Антоніо Гутерріш. Важливі перемовини, ключове – це питання захисту України, усього міжнародного порядку, питання миру для нас і для світу, засудження для агресора. Ми обговорили з паном Гутеррішем ситуацію з нашими людьми, які утримуються в російській неволі. Це полонені українці, а також депортовані дорослі і діти. Маємо повернути усіх. Обговорили ситуацію на українських атомних об'єктах, відповідні загрози, створені Росією. Обговорили продовольчу безпеку та глобальну роль України як гаранта продовольчої стабільності. Це в інтересах нашої держави та усіх сумлінних держав світу, щоб продовольчий експорт з України зберігався. І, звичайно, я представив своє бачення тих можливостей інституцій ООН, статуту ООН, які можуть сприяти реалізації української формули миру усіх її пунктів. Ще одне, про що варто сказати сьогодні. Я хочу подякувати усім, хто цими днями на площах і вулицях Грузії тримав українські прапори. Хочу подякувати за наш національний гімн, який лунав у Тбілісі. І це повага до України. І я хочу висловити щиру повагу до Грузії. Немає такого українця, який не бажав би успіху нашій дружній Грузії, демократичного успіху, європейського успіху. Ми хочемо бути в Євросоюзі і будемо. Ми хочемо, щоб Грузія була в Євросоюзі, і я впевнений, буде. Ми хочемо, щоб Молдова була в Євросоюзі, і я впевнений, буде. На це заслуговують всі вільні народи Європи. Слава усім, хто зараз в бою за Україну. Слава усім, хто б'ється за побратимів. Слава Україні!
So with that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 378 of the war in Ukraine. And of course, that wraps up our news segment for the night. I thank you all so much once again for watching. It's been a pleasure to cover the news. And of course, news is being made right now that will most likely be reported on tomorrow. Missile attacks are usually fairly normal and usually occur around every month or so, or every few weeks. So, of course, while this one is, from what we hear, large, almost all of them are very large and done almost at the exact same time. So we'll be making sure to try and report on that tomorrow. If anyone can find us, because it appears that everyone's still looking for a live cam, if anyone can tell us...
It's in your DMs.
It's in my DMs. Well,
from a YouTube channel called Sloth on Meth. So
Sloth
it should
on
be pretty
Meth.
good.
Let's check it out. So let's see. How many people are watching this thing? 113 watching. And it looks like... See, it doesn't look like much is happening at the moment. And it looks like the Donetsk camera is not working. It's loading down there. Looks like the bottom camera changed to a football field in Kryvyi Rih.
Where's the audio coming from?
It looks like it's coming from Kramatorsk, from what we could see on the little audio levels. But it doesn't appear that much is going on, and this is usually why I'm into videos like these, because you could sit here for hours and one thing happens. So if y'all do want to watch this, I will highly recommend the Sloth on Meth channel. It appears that they have 23.7 subscribers, 23.7 thousand subscribers, and they also have live cams going of most Ukrainian cities. It appears that all sectors in Ukraine are red, although the Oblast of Khmelnytsky, I believe is how it's pronounced, is now getting out of its air raid phase. It appears it may be. We're not really sure. But y'all can go check out this channel if y'all do want a live feed of it. And so with that, we're now going to
Someone's saying scroll back to... Oh, you already jumped off of it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the polls, covering the polls, and also covering all of the questions that have been sent in through Super Chat, and also as many live chats as we can. And so without further ado, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and we have 4 polls to address during our final question segment, and the very first one says, U.S. intel says that Russia has shifted to a strong reliance on nuclear capabilities for defense, and what are your thoughts? 50% said that is expected due to the Ukraine failure, 9% said unsure, 27% said that's expected but concerning, and 14% said, nah, Russia's nukes are unreliable. And I think we have to expect this due to the failure that Russia has experienced in Ukraine. They're naturally going to fall back on their nukes because their conventional forces have been proven to be pretty much a paper bear. So not very intimidating whatsoever, at least to anyone anymore. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that the Russians have always been a paper bear, and this has been very well understood, actually, by Putin all the way back in 2015. In 2015, he actually made statements saying the Russian army can clearly not stand, and I wish I could find the video so that way I could play the clip. He said it word for word, the Russian army cannot stand on its own or at all against any Western military. For that reason, the nuclear weapons are our only safeguard in ensuring that we don't get steamrolled, because through them we can assure mutual destruction. So knowing that, I would have to say it's not surprising to know that the Russians are leaning back on their nuclear doctrine again, because it's really the only saving grace that keeps them alive. So with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next poll says, Poland offers to hand over all of their MiG-29 aircraft to the U.S. to give to Ukraine, and what are your thoughts? 45%, which is the most popular choice, said Poland is stepping up, unlike the USA. 40% said it's simply a good move by Poland, 5% said unsure, and 10% said Poland simply wants new jets. And I think it's a combination. And before everybody gets on me for not having that option on there, we're only allotted 4. So sadly, I couldn't put this as a 5th. But I think Poland wants new jets, and also they're stepping up at the same time to support Ukraine. So it's a win-win for them, because I think they're wanting to get newer jets from the U.S. to replace the MiG-29s that they're giving away. So, Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say this is a neat move by the Poles to try and get MiG-29s to Ukraine. However, why are they telling the U.S. that we're going to give it to us so that way we can give it to them? The Polish do border Ukraine, after all, and they have transported their own equipment directly from Poland into Ukrainian hands. So why would they now say hand it over to America? Because they know that that's something, you know, because, and I'm just saying this because the Polish have been doing a lot and been helping out a lot. But this is something, obviously, that's not going to happen. The United States isn't going to take those fighter aircraft and end up handing them over to the Ukrainians. We've made that clear before. We will not do that. So I don't know why they're doing that. It's a nice move, yes, but we already know that the U.S. will probably say no and not send those aircraft over. In fact, I would say that's almost an assured certainty.
And from what I saw, it looks like Poland doesn't want to hand over the jets directly to Ukraine because they say they're in the business of providing defensive weapons, but they don't want to provide jets because they think that somehow directly involves them in the conflict.
Well, that doesn't make any sense either, because they've sent over They've sent over PT-91 Chwarties, like these right here, They've sent over hundreds of these things, and these are certainly not defensive weapons, and these directly involve them in the war, because a tank in its own right is an offensive weapon. The tank's designed for breakthroughs and also supporting advancing infantry. You know, they can operate in the defense. Yeah, anything can operate in the defense, but the tank was initially made in history and still used to this day to conduct breakthroughs and also to support infantry and offensives. So that already... just the Twardy alone already checks off both of those boxes that they're saying they're trying to avoid. So why is it this time they're going to sit there and say, we can't give the MiG-29s to them directly? Because doesn't that already involve them, even if it was being given over by America, considering that they, you know, gave those MiGs to the United States to give to Ukraine?
Not really sure. I guess they're looking at the jets as something that can be used to target inside of Russia, and Poland thinks that somehow that's worse than giving the tanks.
I don't really know. I got to be honest. I don't really know where that logic is coming from, because like that Russian commissar said, the position is a little weak from the Poles. I don't really see where they're coming from with that. But
the Polish might take the taxi out of there.
Yeah, they might ride on the taxi out of there. But I don't know. It's a nice move. It's a good gesture, yes. But the way they're trying to implement that, they certainly will not. They will not make it to Ukraine. So, you know, that's a little tough one. But still interesting here. Neat to know that they are offering them. And hopefully, you know, for some reason everything goes the way it hasn't gone before, and the U.S. says yes, and then sends those MiG-29s to Ukraine. Also, Aaron Lowe said the MiGs need to be modified to fire U.S. missiles. I think we could probably do that with the technicians in Poland. You know, just send a air technical wing to a Polish airfield where these MiG-29s are, modify the aircraft there, and then send them, instead of having to make the trip all the way to America and then all the way back to Europe to then be sent into Ukraine, most likely through Poland. So with that, I hope that addresses that the best we can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next poll says, Ukraine says it needs 1 million rounds of ammo as soon as possible, which is valued at $4.22 billion. And what are your thoughts? 41% said that isn't going to happen quickly, 4% said unsure, 24% said we might make it work, and 31% said it's possible and quickly. And I'm going to go with the 41%. I don't think that's going to happen very quickly in that large amount. We'll probably deliver a good portion of that pretty soon, but not the entire amount. I saw that Europe was looking to get together today. I think they did get together to discuss how to make that happen, and I don't think they came to any conclusive decisions on how they were going to make that happen. Obviously, a whole lot of money involved in that. So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out, but hopefully Ukraine can get it, because they need that to be able to defend and also go ahead and prepare for that counteroffensive coming up. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that it's interesting here that the amount of artillery that they'll need in one package is about $4.4 billion. In all honesty, the only country that seems to be able to provide packages that large in size is the United States. So I believe that'll probably fall on America to be an issue. They could probably allocate the funds to buy that ammunition from the Europeans and then have it shipped from those European countries to a basing area near the Ukrainian border and then send it over. Because I believe it's 155 millimeter and 152 millimeter shells that they need, among others.
Yes, they need the artillery ammo and also just normal ammo for small arms.
Interesting. So that most likely will be either produced by the United States or purchased from the Europeans and then shipped into Ukraine by the United States. I would have to say that is certainly something that should be done. But at the same time, that is somewhat expensive, and especially at a continuing cost of about $2 billion a month just for the artillery shells on a continued period. So I would say do it, but that may end up being a little cost prohibitive. Maybe a coalition could be made amongst all the NATO allies where everyone chips into it, so that way it's not overbearing on a single country and the amount of support that they're sending. But I still think it's something that needs to be done. Artillery is critically important to the war in Ukraine, and without it, the Ukrainians wouldn't be doing as good as they are right now. And so with that, I hope we address that
also poll. Something else I wasn't able to include in the poll. Ukraine also says they need approximately 90 to 100,000 artillery shells per month to be able to maintain what they're doing currently. So that's very, very high number, but I wonder if we can get that to them on a monthly basis.
90 to 100,000. I don't think that should be that hard. I think we've done that before. But I can't find the sheets right now to back that one up. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next. Also, Activista says, what's the cost of losing Ukraine? Fairly high, but at the same time, you can't bankrupt a country like Poland or Germany to save Ukraine, because then you save Ukraine, but now Germany's in a fix, and then you got to fix them too. So you want to try and make it possible and feasible while also sending them everything else like fighter aircraft and so on. So we've got to find a way for everyone to be able to chip together and be able to do all of these things, but make sure that it's not going to overburden or overbear one country to the point that they can't really support anymore. So with that, I hope that answers that fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
All right, and our last poll before we get to our super chat and live chat questions says, are signals indicating that Russia is preparing for a war with NATO? It looks like 51%, which is the most popular choice, said no, Russia doesn't want a war with NATO. 16% said it seems like they might be. 7% said unsure, and 26% said Russia is indeed preparing for a war. And I'm going to say that maybe in the beginning of this conflict, Russia was ready to duke it out with NATO, but I think at this point, they're just lucky to simply do anything in Ukraine to even win, like, for example, Bakhmut, which is a strategically unimportant city. They're lucky to even get that done. So I don't think they're really looking for a war with NATO, but if they start losing really badly in Ukraine, they might lash out, which is what the U.S. Intel report also said that came out a short while ago. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say they may be, although it's asinine, and also the intelligence report says if they start losing badly, then they'll attack the West.
Yeah, it suggests that if Putin's backed further into a corner where he loses in Ukraine or starts to look like they're going downhill really rapidly, he might decide to lash out and do something stupid to a NATO country.
Interesting. That would be a very stupid move from Putin, considering that he's being beat by the Ukrainians and then attack an entire alliance. That probably wouldn't end up doing well for him. I wouldn't doubt that the Russians would do it, though, because they are stupid as hell.
Sounds like Russian logic.
Yeah, it sounds like Russian logic. Oh, bleed, I can't climb the ladder. Time to just, shoot a rocket up the ladder with me attached to it or something, But anyways, I don't really know what to take of that, because it sounds illogical, but at the same time, the Russians are highly illogical. So I would say it's possible, maybe, and that may be something they're looking at. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next poll if we have one. If not, we're into the questions.
All right. And also, Activist said U.S. Intel is crap, complete crap.
U.S. Intel is crap, complete crap.
I do take U.S. Intel with a grain of salt to an extent. So, I'm not placing all my bets on it. I'm just taking it as a guide right now. But yes, I do understand your sentiment. But moving on to our super chat questions now, because that was our last poll. The first one is from Hal Rose, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Hal, for that.
Thank you.
He says, the video of the drone fest is courtesy of what used to be the Ukrainian Drone Club, who offered their services to Zelenskyy at the very beginning. And look what they've done.
And they've done an impressive amount of work. I mean, especially if that's to show that they've started to progress into, and they're actually showing off the technology that they've been able to produce over a certain period of time. That's actually really interesting. And on top of that, it gives the military of Ukraine and the government of Ukraine a lot of flexibility to be able to, I guess you could say, pick and choose what kind of weapons are either the most economical to use, the most efficient, the most devastating. Very interesting to see. And I've got to say, a really neat thing by the Ukrainians. We haven't seen anything like that around the world yet as far as drone technology for the military. And so with that, I got to thank you so much once again for the support, Hal, and helping this channel to keep on running, and also sharing that with us, because I would have to agree with you. That is very cool and very neat to know that it started from those humble beginnings way back at the beginning of the war that we used to watch on this channel. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running.
All right, and the next one comes from BC Skyman, who puts in another $20 donation, and thank you again, BC, for that. He says, here's some coffee money to keep y'all going.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, BC Skyman, to the coffee fund. Of course, the support helps us to keep drinking coffee, and without coffee, it wouldn't be possible for us to keep this thing rolling, you know what I mean? So with that, thank you so much once again for another super chat, BC Skyman. And thank you for being a long-time old guard of Lee Spring Army. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, Puka Puka1228, he puts in a $20 super chat. And thank you very much, Puka, who says, first question, how much will it take for the Russian military to turn against themselves and overthrow the current regime? That would be great and help in accelerating and ending the conflict.
Can you reread the line?
How much will it take for the Russian military to turn against themselves and overthrow the current regime? That would be a great help in accelerating the end of the conflict.
If the Russian economy starts going into complete, I guess you could say desolation, which is on the path to right now. It's not as quick as we thought it would be, but it is still ongoing. And more Russian soldiers just don't get paid. A lot of them aren't being paid right now, but not enough to actually cause a serious issue across the entire military, or the Russians haven't found out how bad of an issue it is amongst themselves. When they find that out, or if it gets bad enough, they'll most likely start to mutiny against their commanders, and you'll probably see that civil unrest and military uprising occurs within Russia because they're not getting paid. And when you have people in the government that's job is to face down what they call enemy soldiers and possibly die or get shot fighting them, they're not really that scared of the government that they're being employed by, especially if they're not being paid. So it's good to pay them, and it looks like if they didn't, that would most likely be the route right now that I think would be most likely to lead to a coup. Although, I'm not right on everything. I'm not the final authority on everything in this war, but I feel like that's the most likely opportunity or option towards a coup that the Russians have right now. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. I thank you so much once again for the support, and I hope we addressed that question. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Marion Deemer, who says, tomorrow you guys will have a boatload of news. Watching German television, the Russians are throwing everything they have at Ukraine and Slava Ukraine.
And I thank you so much for the support, Marion. And there is a lot of news that will definitely be covered tomorrow. The missile attack, the frontline news will probably be picking up tomorrow. For some reason, I have a feeling that it will start to pick up because today was a little bit more of a quiet day. And these quiet days are usually leading up to a big day. So I would assume that there will be some frontline news to cover tomorrow along with the missile attacks. And also, we will try and check German news if possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support, Marion. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you for being a longtime member of the Lee Spring Army and helping this channel to keep on rolling.
Yes, indeed. And I saw Boda say in the chat, there's a live stream of all the cities. I think it's called Sloss on Meth or something.
Yes,
yes, we did find it earlier. Very unique name, but pretty good live stream like channel for the cameras. I've never heard of it, but pretty good. But up next, we have a super chat from Matt Wardlow, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Matt. Who says, what is the total number of modern tanks headed to Ukraine in 2023?
Right now we know it's over 100. I believe it's something like 104, 105, but there's little itty bitty bits and pieces being added in here, and there are like 18 Challenger 2s were added to that, so I believe it's gotten up to like 118. Then there was 4 Leopard 2s that the Polish sent that I don't think they were planning on sending, so then it's up to like 123 or so. So about 125 based off of the numbers we have right now. A decent amount of those, around 31 of them actually, are M1 Abrams. Around, I believe it's 28 of them are Challenger 2s, and then the rest of them are Leopard 2s. Most of them are Leopard 2 A5s and A6s, although there are a couple of Leopard 2 A4s mixed in there, and the first Western tanks to ever arrive into Ukraine were arrived on February 24th, and they were all 4 of them Polish Leopard 2 A4s. So that is our current breakdown of how many Western tanks have made it into Ukraine, and how many are supposed to be making it there this year, from what we understand. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope we addressed that question fairly well. And thank you for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to John O, who puts in a $15 donation. He says, since it was my birthday yesterday, and also, happy belated birthday to you, John. Hope you had a good one. He said, and my daughters decided not to wish me one. What's wrong with them? But anyways, he said, here's 20 for the pizza fund. Yeah! And long live the LSA.
And happy birthday, John. I don't know why your daughters didn't wish you a happy birthday. Let them know they're being called out. Call them out. Call them out.
Call them out.
Call them out. Quick, John, rip out a page of the book cuss them out. Cuss them out, will you? But still, I gotta thank you for the support. Happy belated birthday to you. I wish we could have celebrated your birthday yesterday, but sadly, I don't think you brought it up yesterday, or you weren't here yesterday, one or the other. But still, happy birthday, belated birthday to you. Hope you've been having a fun one. I hope this has been a good part of the day. Hopefully, it hasn't been that bad. And I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running the day after your birthday. But still, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, happy birthday to Trister1 and also Andy4C. I'm pretty sure it's his birthday, but I'm trying to look. Oh, yes, it is happy birthday to him on 3/9. Tomorrow, that is. So happy birthday to you, Trister. Today is his birthday. Hope you've had a good one. And tomorrow is Andy4C's birthday.
And happy birthday to Indy Andy 4C early. We will be here tomorrow, though, and we will congratulate you then for your birthday again. And Trista1! Trista! How come you didn't tell us, Trista? But still, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to everyone in the Leaf Spring Army. Happy birthday to you. And thank you all so much for being here tonight on y'all's birthday. I hope it's an enjoyable one. I hope we're making it worthwhile. And also hope that the news is something pretty good and informational. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and happy birthday to everyone having a birthday tonight, even if you haven't mentioned it in the live chat. Happy birthday. And so with that, we're on to
indeed.
Yes, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one, it goes to Ben, who puts in a 15, and says, I will watch the stream tonight. And I have a thought that maybe the Ukrainians want to leave, but can't, due to the Russian pressure against the highway. I think the Leaf Spring Army would notice if the situation was out of control. And also, just an interesting little note here. Was going to run a poll on it, but sort of got too many polls running at the same time. From video evidence, I don't know if the enforcer's seen it, it looked like a vehicle was going over the Bakhmut bridge leading to Chasiv Yar. It looked like the Ukrainians might have fixed it or repaired it, but pretty interesting if they have.
The railroad bridge that was blown up?
I don't think it was the railroad bridge. I think it was the road bridge, if there is one.
I don't think they ever blew up a road bridge in between Bakhmut and Chasiv Yar.
They were driving some vehicle over some bridge.
Here's a bridge right here, and that one's right outside of Chasiv Yar, right at the edge of the tree line. But that one, I don't know if they would have blown it up or not, considering that's pretty much the only highway they control that's a supply line into Bakhmut, except for Khoromove. And then
I think the Russians blew it up.
Interesting. They probably just filled it in with gravel then, like they did in the area around Bucha Hospital and Irpin, where they just kind of like graveled it in on the side, and then they just drive around it on the concrete pipes. Not really sure though. I haven't seen that video, and I never heard that the bridge was knocked out there. Because if it was, that would have been a very precarious situation for the Ukrainians, considering that's really the only way they can get supplies into the city, and also the only way they can bring in reinforcements. So with that, can you reread the line again real quick, Matthew?
He says, I have a thought that maybe the Ukrainians want to leave but can't due to the Russian pressure against the highway, and I think the Leaf Spring Army would notice that the situation was out of control.
That is a good thought, and that may be a good reason why they're not leaving, but at the same time, they could leave down that highway. It hasn't been overrun yet, and the Ukrainians do control the lines right over the side of the highway. So, hypothetically, Ukrainian forces could move on the highway out of Bakhmut and into Chasiv Yar. And the Russian lines have also gotten a fairly good way away from that bridge, too, over the canal. So, they could, at least from what we understand. We may be wrong, though. But still, that may be the reason why, and that also may be why they're sending in reinforcements to try and hold that area, so that way maybe they can pull the forces out of Bakhmut, which has been my assumption for a while, or they may actually be intent on holding it, and the situation isn't that bad at all. So with that, I thank you so much.
Also, real quick, I saw Mick Ranger say the Khoromove bridge that links Chasiv Yar and Bakhmut was the one that was repaired, but sections of the road remain impassable due to the fire from the Russians.
So let's see, it would be this bridge, perhaps.
It must be.
Because
that's the Khoromove bridge.
I think that is, because I don't see any other bridges near Khoromove, except for that one. And that one's actually almost in Chasiv Yar itself. It actually is in Chasiv Yar right here. But that may be the one. I'm not really certain, though. So let us know if it is or isn't. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you for clarifying that for us, so that we might have a better idea of which bridge it was.
Yes, indeed. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from CK Bold, who says, take a live chat question.
And thank you so much for the support, CK Bold, and helping this channel to keep on running. And we will make sure to get a live chat question. And so, with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and let me do that. There we go. Now we have a live chat question, this time from, let's see here, Duncan VR, who says, did Ukraine ever get the promised Iron Dome system from Israel? Baba.
No, they did not get the Iron Dome system from Israel. They got NASAMS from the United States, and they're also getting Patriot batteries from Germany, the Netherlands, and the U.S. From what I understand, there may be another one in there, but I may have forgot them. But I think the Israelis are never going to give the Iron Dome, in all honesty, because every time they bring it up, they flounder on it and they never follow up on it. So I think that they won't, and they certainly haven't right now. And so with that, I hope that answers that question. But I thank you so much once again for the support, CK Bold, and sponsoring that live chat. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Cliff H, who says, first point, Jaga Jaga would be a great part of intro somewhere around the Igor section. And 2, Enforcer Matt could use Poltergeist as an alternative call sign if needed. That's pretty cool, I gotta say. That's pretty creative right there. I like that.
That's a pretty creative one. Pretty creative. And I gotta thank you for the support. Pretty interesting idea. We might try and throw in a Jaga Jaga. But at the same time, we risk making the intro even longer. And that's one thing that we do get as a complaint nowadays, is that the intro is long, and it is 14 minutes and 30 seconds long now. And the countdown to the start of the stream is only 10 minutes long. But we might see, because that should only be like a few seconds of an addition, so it shouldn't be that long. So we'll see. That's actually a pretty good idea. And also, I like the call sign you gave Matthew, Poltergeist, as an alternate. That's a pretty interesting idea. We might look into that. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one, while I sit over here and feel like I am in an absolute haze.
Oh, well, up next we have a $10 super chat from Commander Prankster, and thank you very much for that. Commander Prankster says, caffeine is good for curing headaches. Get some coffee. And I have heard that too. And Trister, if you're still in the chat, since he is the doc, please let us know if that is scientifically accurate, because I have definitely heard that before, like Commander Prankster said.
And I thank you so much for the support, Commander Prankster. And coffee does help headaches, at least, you know, from my wives' tale knowledge, because I drink coffee, and usually my headaches start going away either from the headache medicine or the coffee. Probably the headache medicine, really. But probably goes away, maybe because of the coffee. But at the same time, I gotta tell you, I'm like, today I honestly feel beat. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I am just about running out of steam, even right now, which is really late, well, really early in the night to feel like this. I don't really know how to describe it, but I do thank you for the support. And I did drink a pretty good amount of coffee before the stream tonight, which has not helped, actually. Not helped at all. So with that, thank you once again for the support, Commander Prankster. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running.
Yes, indeed. And also, Trister said it is definitely reasonable. So that's good enough for me. So I'm going to drink some caffeine from now on. And maybe grab an Advil too. But anyways, up next we have a $10 super chat from Greg Carmen, who says, thank you for keeping this thing going.
And thank you for the support and helping this thing to keep running. Because without y'all support, it wouldn't have been possible. And so thank you so much once again for enjoying it. It means a lot to us. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
All right. And up next, also, just gotta say real quick, not sure what vasospastic means. That's above my pay grade, but Trister says, but y'all are more likely sleep deprived. I would probably agree with that.
I probably agree with
fair
that.
diagnosis, doc. But anyways, yeah.
It looks like it's a blood vessel condition where they contract in like in spasms and stop blood flow, and that might be what is giving us headaches. While I sit here and butcher the words. So with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Craig Platel, who says the law is against news and human rights groups to control and eventually outlaw them. Russia did the same thing, and the Georgian president says she'll veto it.
Interesting. very interesting to hear that a law like that is being passed at all in Georgia. And good to know that the president will veto it, but that's very concerning to hear that the Georgian government is leaning that far in that direction. So with that, I hope that does address that question, well, that comment fairly well. And thank you for sharing that with us, because I didn't know the law was that draconian in a way, and allowed the Russians that much control in Georgia. And so with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you once again for the support and sharing that with us.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Richard Daniel Jr., who says, Enforcer, please mention the upcoming U.S. and Korean exercise that you shared on Twitter. My son will be part of that, and thanks.
And thank you for the support, Richard Daniel Jr. Also, haven't seen you throw in the support for a while. Welcome back. I know you have been in the live chat, but welcome back to the supporting side of things. The military exercise that's going on in South Korea, as far as we understand, is a joint operation in between the United States and South Korea. And they do this literally every year. But every time we do it, the news makes it sound like it's brand new. We did one of these.
This one's going to be the biggest they've ever done, with all the equipment, the scale of it.
Let's see. 2018 South Korea military exercise. I swear, Matthew, I hear this every year. But I'll check to see, because I feel like in 2018, right here, we'll resume the annual joint military, restarting drills. North Korea announced they're beginning diplomatic rapprochement. Let's see, exercises. Scale this year is similar of that of previous years. Let's see here, appeared. Let me go to 2019, and let me check 2019, because I swear I heard one of them recently being the biggest ones. Okay, so that one was canceled in 2019. Maybe it was 2017? Let's see here. In August 22nd of 2022, last year, joint drills are the biggest since 2017 and come after North Korea rebuffed Seoul's offer of economic aid. And that was last year, and that was the biggest since 2017.
They must be getting bigger.
Yeah, and in 2017, that one was the biggest since. And what do they qualify as bigger? Because they never give us a quantity of how big it is compared to last one. Like, is it an extra 500 guys? And so they're qualifying it as the biggest military exercise ever? I don't really know. But it is ruffling the feathers of the North Koreans, like it does every single time these military exercises are held. And they're threatening to launch off a nuclear missile in kind of like protest, and also to test it at the same time. The U.S. is threatening right now that they will shoot down that nuclear missile, and the North Koreans say if they try to shoot it down, it will start an all-out war, and they'll start launching nukes at us, or at South Korea. So then the U.S. said, bring it on, and that's the current stance we're at right now. The general who's in charge of this entire operation said they're going full steam ahead, which means they're going to conduct the exercise and maybe even plan on shooting down that nuclear test missile. So that is the current situation as far as we understand it right now, Richard. But I got to thank you once again for the support. I hope your son's all right over there, and I hope he has a interesting time in the military exercise. And I hope that addresses that the best we can in a brief way. So with that, thank you once again for the support. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have an $8 super chat from White Light and 777, who says, what is your opinion of all of those... That's Ukrainian. He says, all of these something videos, why are the Ukrainians making them witchcraft, ? And I put in the chat the Ukrainian little piece of word there.
Brahe. Vrahe? Sadly, I don't understand what that word means. So let me go and put it into Google Translate. So let me go over here. Ukrainian to English. Amazes, and this is translated actually from Serbian. So can you reread it again now, knowing that the word is amazes?
What is your opinion of all of those amazes videos? Why are the Ukrainians making them? Is it witchcraft?
Sadly, I don't know how to answer that one, because considering that it's amazes according to Google Translate, I'm at a little bit of a loss as to what the question means and what videos the Ukrainians are making. So sadly, I'm going to have to declare ignorance on that one, but I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And if you can clarify the question, we'll make sure to circle back and answer it. So thank you once again. I hope that we do get a clarification so that we can come back and answer it. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Gilaman X, who puts in a 5 and says, can you give fast pros and cons for Ukraine counterattack fronts?
Let's see, counterattack fronts. Starting off in the northeastern area, we'll go to deep state for this. Starting off in the northeastern area, in Svatove, pros, there is a clear objective in the fault line near Svatove where they'll have high ground over the entirety of the front line if they attack. Cons, there's a decent amount of ridge lines in this area which can pose some issues, as the terrain will be difficult to move any armor through, and also will be a little time consuming for infantry to move through, considering that Russian positions may be a little stronger here than elsewhere due to the terrain. Moving on into the Bakhmut area, heavy concentration of Russian forces in this area, so you're literally running into pretty much half of the Russian army in Ukraine at this point. That is a con in itself. But a pro is that there are two clear weak points right here near Vesely and also down here near Kurdomivka, where the Ukrainians could punch through and just start to directly threaten the Russian rear lines around Bakhmut. So there's an advantage there. Donetsk gets a front line like the Maginot line, so there really is no pros and cons there. An assault from either side is practically impossible and doesn't really make a lot of progress. The southern front probably has the most pros to it. One, you can divide the Russian forces in two. Second, it's flat land, so it's fairly easy to attack against. Three, the Russian forces there, while having incredibly good entrenchments from what we've seen on picture, have very backwards equipment, like T-62Ms as a norm. So they'd be fairly easy to brush aside, although the defenses are a little strong. That is a con, however. They do have strong defensive networks and positions built in the southern area around Zaporizhia. So that may start to pose a small problem for the Ukrainians if they try to advance. But the other pros largely outweigh that single con. So the northeast and the south in Zaporizhia show the most potential. The Bakhmut area, the least, and the Donetsk area is practically impossible. So with that, I hope that addresses the pros and cons of each area fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a... let's see. White Line at 777 had put some in the live chat real quick about his super chat. He said, search YouTube for BPAXE. It's bizarre, but still PG rated.
Let's see. BPAXE. Let's see here. Oh, a song. Yikes. Sadly, I would love to play a song, but they will come and murder us. YouTube will take out our kneecaps.
Damn.
Matthew actually has lost a kneecap to the YouTube overlords.
I have?
You are now. It comes in with a sledgehammer.
Must have been painless. Never felt it.
I mean, that's how they are, man. It's quick. It's painless. I would love to see that, White Lightning 777, but sadly, I don't think we can play it because we will get copyrighted almost immediately. And we always want to avoid copyrights because we don't want ads running on this thing later where people have to watch an ad. But I do thank y'all for sharing that. We will watch it after the stream, maybe, hopefully. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one is from Wolfen Joggle, who puts in 5 and says, I love your show, Enforcer.
Hey, thank you so much, Wolfen, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Without folks like you, this channel wouldn't be able to roll. And I thank you so much once again for the support. And I guess you're out there letting hell loose. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And thank you for being a member of this Lee Spring Army. Probably for quite a while, actually, at this point. I don't know. Please clarify that if you're still in the live chat. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
All right. Do you see that comment in the chat that's somewhat questionable?
Let's see.
Name starts with a J.
J. 1 second. Is it live chat?
Yes.
1 second. Let me look. Starts with a J. I'm not seeing it. Could you send it to me over Discord DM?
Yeah, let me send it over there.
All right, thank you. I
There.
don't know why,
It's
but
in
for
your
some-
DMs.
Let's see here. We're checking those DMs. That's very questionable, and that's on shaky historical ground because Lenin wasn't assassinated. He actually died from some kind of dementia or something similar. So that's a very questionable statement. So keep that in mind, Matthew. I don't know who they are. I don't see them. But make sure to
I see them.
Make sure to keep an eye on that because that was an interesting comment. So with that, we are on to the next one.
And now I'm watching them. But anyways, also, Boss Austin once says, "Stop the voices." Bye. Bye.
What,
no,
you want
B-U-Y?
What do you want the voices to be? A buyable DLC?
No, they're not for sale. Go away. but anyways,
the show is the show. We run the show how it is. I'm doing voices. I'll keep doing voices. We'll keep covering the news the exact same way. The show's the show. You either like it or you don't. We run it unapologetically. You know, we try and make changes here and there, but that doesn't mean we're going to morph the whole channel every time someone asks. So with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $5 super chat from Conrad Kirby, who says funding for the Enforcer is brought to you by viewers like you.
Hey, that's like the PBS thing. And I thank you for the support. And that is true. Helping this channel to keep on running is thanks to y'all, the viewers. And whenever I say that, I want y'all to know that I'm massively appreciative of all the support that y'all have given me, because y'all have made this entire thing possible. And without y'all, this channel would have never been able to run the huge fundraisers we've run. We would have never been able to get this far, and it's all thanks to y'all. And I want y'all to know that we are incredibly appreciative of everything each and every one of y'all have done. Hitting the like button, saying y'all enjoy the channel, being really supportive, sending in super chats, helping out the fundraisers. Y'all have made this channel what it is, and I've got to thank y'all so much for the support, because it is viewers like you who help us to keep this thing running. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $5 super chat from Craig Platel, who says, "I would suggest that the U.S. intel in these stories isn't the real U.S. intel." But Craig, I will say, that's a healthy skepticism, but it actually came directly out of the report itself, from the U.S. Intel, whatever committee it was. I can't remember the acronym they used, but it was actually directly from the source.
I thank you for the support, Craig. And I'm one, I'll have to say this, I'm one who does not really trust a lot of what the U.S. government, or I guess you could say the Department of Defense says, or what Milley says, because both of them have been seen to be wrong a decent amount of times. I think the Department of Defense, in this instance, has been wrong on more occasions than really any other government's defense ministry or Department of Defense. Because the British have been getting things fairly accurate. The Germans have been getting things fairly accurate. The French have been getting things fairly accurate, but America just kind of sometimes throws shots in the dark, which is really interesting to me. And I don't know if that's an attempt at deception or misleading deliberately, but sometimes it's just weird to see what they say. So I'll agree with you, Craig. It is sometimes a little questionable to listen to U.S. sources, but sometimes they do get things right. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Thank you once again for the support, Craig. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And did you know that Craig has his own list?
Really?
Yeah, it's called Craigslist.
Get the hell out of here. You got me.
I stole that joke. I stole it from Trent Karras. Good joke, by the way.
Oh,
that had me cracking up.
That was a good one. I'll admit that. That was a pretty good one. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Robert Durham, who puts in a 5 and says, "Spring is coming, and historically, spring offensive. Who will be on offense? Will Ukraine dig in? Russia holds? Question mark. 1915? Question mark. Verdun? Question mark."
And thank you for the support, Robert Durham. And according to a lot of people around, and also, Matthew, have you noticed that the 500,000 man offensive that the Russians were supposed to be launching that was going to steamroll the Ukrainians kind of just faded away and died?
And where was that offensive supposed to start?
It was supposed to start in late February.
Yeah, that definitely kind of faded away. Although they are, pushing pretty hard in Bakhmut. That's the only place I really see them gaining ground right now.
Yeah, but that's not a new offensive. That's been going on since October. So they were saying that a new 500,000 man offensive was going to begin somewhere in the south, like around Zaporizhia, and they were going to make it to Zaporizhia and Dnipro, and the war was going to be over. And and I kept on asking, where is everyone getting that from? Like who's getting that information? And then it never happened. And I don't see anyone talking about that offensive anymore. It's just has completely disappeared. So I would have to say that there probably is not going to be a Russian offensive, to get back to this question, Robert. And also, thank you for the support. It says it's your first time supporting. I don't know if it is or isn't, because I swear I've seen you support us before. But if it is the first time, thank you so much. And I would have to say the Ukrainians may be the ones conducting an offensive, because it appears that the Russians have exhausted their abilities in Bakhmut, and there is no other offensive that's going on. And the offensive, the 500,000 man offensive, is not going to be happening. I see the Pizza Man saying they used the 500,000 to take Bakhmut. They may be, but if they are, dang, that's a lot of guys, because they had initially 220,000 guys spread out all the way from Kyiv and across all of the borders of Ukraine, all the way down to Kherson, and that was a thick concentration of forces at that time. Having 500,000 guys just in the area of Bakhmut, that would be unbelievable. I feel like the casualty reports at that point would be thousands dead per day, because there's just so many of them that you can't even miss. But you may be right. They may be using all 500,000 of those guys in Bakhmut now. I don't really know. But still, I hope that addresses that fairly well, and I thank you so much once again for the support, Robert. And I think if anyone will be conducting an offensive, it most likely will be the Ukrainians, considering that it seems that the Russians now lack the ability to conduct one. So with that, I hope that answers that fairly well, and we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $5 super chat from Still Thinking, who says, Enforcer Brothers, can you do an angry Scottish accent? LSA, Slav Ukraine. And sadly, I can't, but I'm sure the Enforcer can.
Oh, where'd you get my brew? This tastes like crap, absolute garbage shite.
I don't know. I don't know if that's good or not. I'm trying.
Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. I remember now. You remember that meme with that guy walking down the street with the disabled fella and he's trying to help him walk? Your stick's named on the ground, man.
wait a minute. Let me find that. Hopefully that's not copyrighted or anything.
It can't be.
Yeah, stick's not even on the ground, man. Your stick's, yeah, your stick's not even on the ground, man. I found it. So let me find it.
This is gonna be a good meme.
Oh man, this is
it's
funny.
chaotic.
Your stick's not even touching the ground, man.
Oh,
your stick's not even touching the ground, man.
Man, that is such chaos. Like the siren going on in the background, the yelling.
The cough drops are helping right now, man. But your stick's not even touching the ground, man. I hope that. I'm sorry, I'm about to start coughing up a lung here. But I thank you so much for the support, and I hope that addresses that fairly well. Still thinking, because I hope that it was an angry Scottish accent in a way. Because I can't really do one well right now, but that's about the best I think I can get it. So I hope that qualifies. So with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that addresses the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, now see that really that really got everybody chuckling. But anyways, up next we have a $5 super chat from JuneBuck72, who says, "Good evening, the Enforcer and Enforcer Matt. I hope you got some food in you. Please take a live chat if there's time in Slav Ukraine."
And thank you so much for the support, JuneBuck72. I did eat before the stream. I ate some rice and some beef, so that way I could make sure to make it through without getting starving. So I thank you so much for caring about that, because we did tonight. I actually did. I took care of myself a little bit. And also, can you reread the next part of it, Matthew?
Please take a live chat.
And we will. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, JuneBuck72. I am so sorry to everyone tonight. I feel like I owe y'all an apology for this. I don't know what it is, but I feel in the dumps right now. I hope that's not being reflected too badly on stream. So with that, let's get to the live chat.
And the live chat goes to Tasman006, who says, "Do you think Russia will bring out the infamous Scud missile from the first Gulf War? They may bring them out of storage."
Maybe. I think they may. But at the same time, I don't really know, because I don't know how many Scuds the Russians have. Let's pull it up. Russian Scuds. The Scud missile. I gotta be honest with you, that thing looks a lot like an Iskander. It looks very similar, actually, but... Man, this picture was taken at the RAF Air Force Base Spatterdam in England. They just got a Scud just chilling out there in the air base in England. But let's see here. Let's see. They became familiar to the Western public during the invasion in the Gulf War. They fired dozens at Israel and Saudi Arabia, and Russian services being replaced by the Iskander. So it seems as though by the statement here, the Scud is still in operation with the Russian forces. It's just that it is being replaced by the Iskander, so it's entirely possible that they could already have been used right now, or we'll see them used in the future because some units are still using them, at least based off of Wikipedia's information. Although former operators are listed in red, and it appears that the Russian Federation is a former operator of the Scud, but still, there's the possibility out there, considering there's a decent amount of them in storage, that they may use them in the future. So with that, I thank you. Oh, wait a minute, there's a Scud launcher with the Afghan National Army? Huh.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's
I want to drive
interesting.
the truck.
Man, the Afghans just get a little too pissed off with the Taliban in the mountains. All right, Scud time. It just fires a Scud right at the side of a mountain. But anyways, with that, wait a minute, hang on. An opposing force Scud launcher in the United States. It's a legit Scud launcher. I don't know how the hell everyone got like a Scud launcher. Everyone in the world has a Scud launcher. Let's see here. The U.S.
Ferrari used to make a good car called a Scuderia. They called it the Scud. Very nice little car, but sadly, too expensive.
Too expensive. That's the problem with most Ferrari's cars. They're too expensive. They need to make one affordable. But anyways, I hope that addresses that fairly well, because it is entirely possible that you can pull the Scuds back out of storage and start using them. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Richard Daniel Jr., who says, Enforcer, had to take video on my last super chat, but sent it to my son. He just turned 21 in February. He's doing good and trying to move up in rank, and proud of my boy.
And thank you so much for the support, Richard. And also, congratulations on your son turning 21, and happy birthday to him. I also am now 21, but the date will remain anonymous for the rest of all time. We'll be having an official birthday in the summer, though. It'll be in June at some point. But still, happy birthday, happy belated birthday to your son. I hope he's having a fun time in South Korea. I usually hear that some of my friends that I've talked to that have been to South Korea say it's actually a pretty fun place to be sent to, and hopefully he's been having a fun time there, and the war games just passed by without any incident. I feel like although there's a lot of hype talk and loud-mouthing right now going on from the North Koreans, probably nothing will happen. It's safe to assume that nothing will happen. Nothing really happens with that stuff. So I hope that he enjoyed watching that. Also, thank you once again for the support, Richard. And I gotta say, I hope you are proud of your son, because he's serving in one of the best military in the world, and he's over there repping the set in South Korea for the United States, or representing the nation in a better term. So that, thank you so much once again. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Rick B., who says, who puts in a 5 and says, are those cows part of the elite Russian PMC Wagyu?
Oh, I see what they did there. I see what they did there. That was genius. Yes, they are. They are part of the Wagyu. And I think they're about to be turned into some finely diced beef. And so with that, thank you for the support. That was a smart one, actually. Really, really smart. I didn't even see that one coming. And thank you for helping this channel to keep on running, and also throwing in a banger of a joke. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat once more from Trister1, who says, and forget not the Corgi Fund.
And thank you for the support, Trister. And thank you for supporting our Corgi Fund. We have 2 Corgis. We have Mr. Corgi, and we have Shiba. Let me go to YouTube. Let me go to my channel. Let me go to videos. Let me go to the Christmas address.
Good evening, folks.
You know, Matthew, I'm about to go.
Hey, it's Enforcer Matt.
But what we're here for is this. And I thought I'd... It's Miso Word. Show you all on the camera right here. Look at him.
Little Mr.
He a little baby. Oh, look at him. I love that dog.
Mr. Ward.
He's so precious. I love the Miso Word. Wait a minute here. He's so sweet. I love that dog. He's right outside of my room right now. But he's a sweet little dog. Absolutely love him. Love him to bits. And it's good to know that no one forgets the Corgi Fund, because the Corgis are absolutely precious. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you once again, Trister, for helping this channel to keep on running.
Yes, indeed. And up next, we have a $4 super chat from Anaru Ball, who says cows do that. I'm guessing they have been feed throughout the winter. So people, we're a bit hungry. From NZ, we have cows.
And thank you for the support and sharing that with us. It may be that they were hungry and trying to get food from those soldiers. And I mean, like, yeah, that's plausible, but still a funny, hilarious video. Thank you for sharing that with us and actually giving us a real reason why the cows were encircling the position, because it looks like they were about to go in for the kill. Although cows are herbivores, that doesn't mean that they can't cap a fella. You know what I mean? Bust a cap in them. So that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running.
And speaking of fellas, did you hear that NAFO and the fellas got recognition from Zelenskyy today?
No way.
For real. They got a plaque from United 24 to recognize all the work that the fellas have been doing.
Oh, that's cool. I wonder if we could get
very
one.
cool.
Oh,
and also
Walter's
Mr.
back.
Mr. Corgi is an honorary NAFO fellow, so self-declared.
It is. And let me pull up some pictures of corgis. Pembroke Welsh. Oh, look at the little puppy. Oh, that's a cute puppy. Oh, yeah, hang on. That's exactly what they sound like, actually. That sounds just like Sheba, actually. But anyways, these are Gorgi. Oh, look at little Gorgi. Little Gorgi butt. Little Corgi. That's a cardigan. Cardigans, they're okay. Look at little Gorgi jumping through the side. Oh, look at it. Look at this one. Corgis are precious. I love corgis.
Have you ever seen a fluffy?
Yes, I have. I have seen one of those genetic freaks. Let me see if I can find one. Oh, look.
Punch in Corgi Fluffy.
Corgi Fluffy. Look at it.
There they are.
It's a Fluffy. Oh. And look at this one. It's a Fluffy. Oh. These things are, I love
like
these.
a fox.
Oh, look at that one. Oh. They're so precious. They're so precious. I love corgis so much. I feel like everyone in the world should have a corgi, but then they'll start overbreeding the corgis, and then they'll have bad genetic defects. And then the corgis will be looking at you like that, like, don't do it to us. Don't to me. No, man, I love these dogs. I love every corgi I've ever seen. And oddly enough, they're becoming more and more popular as the years goes by. I'm seeing more of them. But look, I just love the corgis. And so with that, I hope I addressed that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And Walter is back.
Walter is back. And Walter A. Lakota Jr. puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much for that, Walter. And he says, Aloha, the Enforcer Matt, and LSA from OG Ellison Bosun. Yes, it looks like a double pincer movement in Bakhmut. What say you? And also, Hawaii fun fact, the planes used in the second Pearl Harbor attack were the Kawanishi H-8K Emily for Operation K.
The H-8K Emily.
I'm turning in a Matthew. But let's see here. The Hapakasi H-8K Emily. It doesn't look like an Emily. It looks more like a Lauren, but it is. I'm just kidding. It is an Emily. These things were float planes. The Japanese also had, I believe, H-6Ks. But those H-6K, I think those were older. Yeah, here we go. The H-6K. Let me check and see if these were older. First flight, introduction 1938. Let me go back to here, and let me go look at this. Yeah, introduction in 1942. So this one is the older variant of it. This one's the bigger one, the thicker one. And I believe it could carry more and also fly farther. But these things are kind of interesting in a way. They're just unique, kind of like the PBM Mariner, which I know you know, Walter Lakota. And it's just very neat to look at the naval warfare, well, the aviation naval warfare side of things with the larger aircraft at the time, because almost all of them were float planes. You know, of course, there's an exception there with the American bombers like the B-29s and the B-24s that we used in the Pacific, but still, they're pretty cool. And really neat for you to share that fun fact with us, because I actually didn't know that they used H-8Ks in the attack on Pearl Harbor. I thought it was, well, in the second Pearl Harbor attack, I thought they actually used the same aircraft they used in the first one. I didn't know that. Also, another thing it looks like a double pincer movement. It kind of does. Because you see the one pincer here near Kromove, up here in the north and in the south. And then you see this pincer here in the tree line near Chasiv Yar, and also further up on the M03. Now, this one is, of course, the least likely of the two, because it has to travel a lot longer distance, and it's less formed than the first one. But this one here certainly looks like it's very close. So I definitely agree with you, Walter. It does look like a double pincer, and it could be kicking off at any minute now. Who knows? But of course, the Ukrainians are holding them back heavily. There's massive reinforcements there, so it's not going to happen, most likely. But still, I thank you for the support, Walter. Welcome back, by the way. We've been wondering where you've been. Where have you been? But still, thank you for helping this channel to keep on running. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And, of course, it's great to hear from the OG LSN Bosun. Your ship coin is still on my desk as I speak right now. Excuse me. Coughing up a lung over here. But with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
All right, and up next, we have a $2 super chat from Dupper Bob. And Dupper is, of course, coming in with that very consistent support. While I mangle my words all over the place. But Dupper, thank you very much for that once again. And sadly, no comment to address, but we do appreciate it very much. And with that, that rounds out our super chats for the moment. So thank you all once again for that support and helping to keep us running. And let's see here. We are moving on to our live chat questions. Up first, we have the Morse code decoders of the stream. Cliff Simonson, C. Fay, Rumpelstiltskin, Mark Hodges, and the JP's RCs. They said the Morse code says the Russians' lines move slower than the ones in McDonald's drive-thru, and those things don't even move.
Ding, 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 ding. That's the sound of money. Y'all got it right again. I don't know why I always say that after I make that noise. I always say, that's the sound of money. Why don't I just say sounds of money from here forward and just cut out the noise? But anyways, y'all did get it correct. And I got to thank y'all so much once again for deciphering that Morse code message, because the Russian lines do move slower than a McDonald's drive-thru. That is a certainty. That's true. They're not even moving right now. And you know how it is. You place that simple order, you know, a number 5 with a sweet tea. And you sit there in that line for 2 hours, and there's only 2 cars in front of you, and neither of them move. And then finally, after 2 hours, one of them finally moves, but hardly. So with that, thank you all so much once again for deciphering that Morse code message. I hope that does address that fairly well, and y'all did get the message correct again. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much.
All right, and we have another super chat, this time from Spaz's Workshop, who puts in a 5 and says, is there a scenario where you see Putin being able to end and Ukraine not losing any land?
There is probably a way for Putin to end the war and have Ukraine not lose any land by getting pushed out of the country and then being forced to sign a peace treaty, or a coup happening at that point, and then the new government signs a peace treaty with Ukraine. But it most likely will involve the war continuing on for a good while, because there's no way they're going to negotiate giving the land back to Ukraine. That's very clear. The Ukrainians will have to fight tooth and nail to take all of that land back and then get into peace talks after they've reclaimed it. So that's really the only way I'm seeing it going down. Usually we have several options, but that's the only way the Ukrainians will be able to pull that off, is fighting for every bit of land and pushing them out of it. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and we're back to our live chat questions. And this one is from Keith Does Things. And he says, can you mention what's going on? I'm hungry tonight. Wait a minute, hold on. Let's see here. Can you mention I think something auto-corrected. I think you meant to say, can you mention what's going on in Hungary tonight?
And I think you, for the question,
that makes more sense.
Yes. I was like, I'm hungry, and I was like, well, I can't really explain that. Maybe you need to eat. But right now, let's pull up Hungary news, and let me see if I can try and explain it. Because I haven't been looking at Hungary a lot. Lawmakers give no date for Nordic NATO ratifications. Let's see. Hungarian delegation backs Sweden's NATO application. But it looks like they may be lagging on Finland. Let's read the AP news and see what they're saying. I'm so sorry for coughing, everyone. I don't know what's happening. But my throat's shot, my head's shot, my body's shot. I feel like I'm dying over here, but we're going to keep it running. A parliamentary delegation from Hungary said Tuesday that it supports Sweden's NATO membership bid after meeting the Speaker of Swedish Parliament to iron out what Hungary's governing party has called political disputes. Some Hungarian lawmakers have raised doubts about whether to support the NATO membership applications by Sweden and Finland, citing what it calls blatant lies from Stockholm and Helsinki on the state of Hungary's democracy. But the Hungarian delegation indicated Tuesday that the parliament in Budapest would ultimately ratify Sweden's NATO bid. We support Sweden's NATO membership, Hungary Deputy Parliamentary Speaker Saba Hanide told Swedish news agency TT. No. We made it clear that the Hungarian government, the Hungarian president, the prime minister, and most of the Hungarian parliamentarians clearly support Swedish NATO membership. And they said, according to the news agency, in Brussels, NATO secretary welcome statement. They are sending a message. So it doesn't appear that they're really talking about Finland. So is there any statement on Finland? Let's see. No, there is. He wrote Sweden and Finland have delivered on what they were supposed to do after they applied to join the alliance in May of last year. And it's been that long. Finnish parliament give approval. Let's see. Interesting. So it appears that the Hungarians are backing Sweden and Finland joining, and it appears that they actually had some issues with that before. So I think that is what's going on in Hungary right now. If I understand it correctly, Keith does things, but if that's not what you're looking for, let us know, and we'll try and look a little bit deeper. So with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Mycroft, who says, where is Moldova's military and why do they not expel the Russian troops?
They don't expel the Russian troops because of the Transnistrian War. And I'll pull that up, Transnistria War. This is a war that happened a while ago, back in the 90s, actually right after the Soviet Union collapsed. Because you see, when the Soviet Union collapsed, it was a very confusing time for a lot of the Eastern European world. A lot of countries didn't really understand what they were supposed to be now. A lot of them didn't really have domestic governments that had been constructed without outside influence from the Russians. And so many of them didn't know what to do, but the Transnistrians, which is an area in Moldova, knew exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted to break away from Moldova, which had become its own republic, and try and still stay a part of the Soviet Union, which didn't even exist at the point they broke away. So they broke away, and they fought the Moldovan government. They were supported actually by the Russians at the time, and the Russians and the Transnistrians would win, and they would set up this fake Soviet republic called the Transnistrian, I believe it's like People's Republic or something like that. It spans this entire little province area over here on Moldova from Tiraspol all the way north to, I believe, about here, if I remember correctly. You can actually see a picture from that war, and they're using an MTLB here, and they just got a bunch of dudes with AKs over here. Let's see here. Let me try and find something else more interesting about this. Wait a minute, hang on. Wait, the Ukrainians were involved in support of the Transnistrians? Oh, they got diplomatic support from Ukraine. Huh.
Oh.
That was a different time in history, right there. But anyways, the war would end, they would sign the treaty, the Transnistrians would become an unofficially recognized country. So that's really why it exists. That's probably why they're not invading it right now, because they're kind of scared that the Transnistrians want to stay kind of like a quasi-independent country, and so if they invade it and try and take it back over, there'll be a bunch of domestic terrorism issues, and they'll be constantly stuck there trying to fight to hold Tiraspol, and yeah, sorry, I don't know what's up with that. I don't know what that was, but anyways, with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well while my throat collapses on itself. And thank you once again for the question. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a question from Danny Coco, who says, did you cover the supposed poisoning of Ramzan Kadyrov?
We did.
And have they determined that he's been poisoned yet? Or is he still just like, you know, they're saying he has kidney problems?
I think they're still saying he has kidney problems. No one's come out and said that he's been confirmed poisoned, but we did cover the news that he apparently is having some issues with his kidneys, which largely shows that he's being poisoned. So with that, I hope that answers that fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one comes from Andy Panda, who says, why is Ukraine artillery so precise?
Ukrainian artillery is really precise due to the amount of training that their artillerists go through and also the accuracy of the systems they're using. The systems like the M777 are incredibly accurate, and also with the laser-guided munitions, they become even more accurate. So that's really the best explanation we can give, and also on the older Soviet systems, the artillerists are just incredibly well trained, and the information they get from drone allows them to get pinpoint accuracy with those artillery pieces. So with that, I hope that does address the question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a question from Tank 2, who says, what will Ukraine have to do to have Putin notice that perhaps they don't want to be Russian after all?
Fight the way they are right now. I would say that's the best thing they could do. They can't nuke the Russians or anything. So I would just say to continue to fight on the way they are. So with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Bobo Uzala, who says, will farmers be able to plant this year? Will there only be planting in western Ukraine? And what about mines and tons of metal in the ground in Slava Ukraine?
The Ukrainians will be able to plant this year. They planted last year in the middle of the war and sometimes in active front lines. So it is entirely possible. The Ukrainians will probably have to have some kind of specialized sappers or demining units in these areas of the farms, helping to clear them before the farmers work on them. So that may be an issue that slows it down, but they will plant this year and they will grow their harvests. So with that, I hope that does answer that question fairly well, at least from what we understand. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Super Action General, who says, how many more casualties can the orcs realistically take before they collapse under a Ukrainian counteroffensive? It feels like they have an endless supply.
In a way, they kind of do have an endless supply of manpower. So I don't really think the casualties will be much of an issue for the Russians in the war. It's more so a... what?
Lag.
Oh, man. Adding on to an already tough night. Well, actually, it looks like we're not having that much lag. It may have just been a small thing. But can you repeat that question again real quick?
How many more casualties can the orcs realistically take before they collapse under a Ukrainian counteroffensive? It feels like they have an endless supply.
They largely do have an endless supply of manpower. The thing they do not have an endless supply of is equipment. And from what we understand, they are starting to run out of modern or competent equipment at all, and that is the limiting factor as compared to actual manpower casualties. And also, whenever we talk about infantry being lost, it's not really about the number of guys getting killed. And I don't really convey that well because I'm always talking about the guys getting killed. And I'm always going, wow, that's a high number. It's more so about how much equipment is being lost on each guy, because 700 guys lost means that 700 AKs have probably been lost with them. All of their equipment has been lost with them. Backpack, everything inside of their backpacks, their plate carrier if they had one, their clothes, their boots, all of that is being lost 700 times over. 700 infantry equipment kits are being lost, and 155,000 have been lost over the course of the entire war. And maybe some more valuable than others, and some equipment less equal than others. So that's really what's important here in this number. And also it shows that the units are going to become less and less trained, less and less competent. So the chances of this equipment getting lost at a higher rate will probably be even more so than normal. So with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well, because I believe that equipment is more so the limiting factor of the Russians than the manpower side of things, but that's just my opinion. And so with that, I hope that does answer that question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Madison music teacher, who puts in a 5 and says, north of y'all in 1864, 35,000 General Thomas's Union forces with 2 gunboats kept 39,000 of General Hood's Confederate forces from crossing the bridge in Decatur, Alabama.
Interesting. Let's see, where is it? There's Decatur. We've been to Decatur before, trying to get to that freaking power plant right there. Just trying to get a good clip of it. oh, did you clip that, bro? Did you clip that? I think we actually drove like somewhere around here and tried to film it from there, and then the film wasn't that good. It actually looked terrible, so we couldn't even use it. So we drove like a whole hour and a half around this Tennessee River reservoir, the Wheeler Lake, for nothing. But moving on from that,
You can drive straight up to that power plant, by the way. There's a road right in front of it, and there's no gates or anything to it. Completely insecure and just in the wide open.
You can just drive right up to it. Nobody stops you or anything. In fact, the road used to go right through the nuclear power plant. You can see it right here, the bridge and everything.
but yeah, it's interesting, and also that power plant's got a lot of issues. But anyways, that's very interesting to hear about Decatur, and I thank you so much for sharing that with us, Madison music teacher, about that interesting little fact, because I don't think I've ever heard that specific story in the Civil War. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the little historic tidbit, actually teaching me something, and I didn't even know it. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support.
And up next, we have a super chat from Dubsy Dabster, who says, "Damn, son, you can't find this on the internet."
Damn, son, where'd you find this? And thank you so much for the support, Dubsy Dabster. And you can't find this stuff on the internet. You just can't. And so with that, thank you once again for the support, Dubsy Dabster. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one is from G-Man is Watching. He says, "Can Russia POWs refuse to be exchanged and request political asylum?"
I don't know if they can or can't. That's a question that the Russians will have to ask their Ukrainian captors. I haven't seen that happen yet, actually. So I'm having a feeling that the answer there is no, but that may be because we've never seen the process unfold. It may be that it's happened several times. I'm not really sure. Like with the Wagner guy who escaped to Norway, that certainly did happen, but that's not Ukraine, that's Norway. But I don't know about Ukraine. I don't know if they say, if I exchange secrets, can I, kind of live in Ukraine and request political asylum? Maybe they do it then. I don't really know. But I have a feeling that the overall answer is most likely not. So with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one is from Gus, who says, "Have you heard of the AK-50 cal rifle?"
I think I have. Let me check it real quick. AK-50 cal. Let's see, images. Yes, I have. This thing is, I think, on Brandon Herrera's channel. Little janky looking, not gonna lie, but it does work, apparently. If I understand it correctly, it can actually cycle around. While Matthew opens up a window or something over there. I don't know what that was. But with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a... Oh my god. Hold on, excuse me.
Knocked out the stream, and it looks like we're back.
Goodness gracious, that's some strong stuff. Should not be consumed by humans.
Man,
but anyways,
that's the strongest stuff. That's strong as the sun. But anyways, with that, let's get on to the next one. You know what I mean?
that's actually bad. But anyways, the question goes to Danny, who says, "Do you think that Ukraine pilots are secretly being trained on NATO aircraft?
Hello?
If the USA sends planes, will they come from or through American bases in Germany?"
Matthew lagged out there, but I'll try and answer the question from what I heard. We are training Ukrainian pilots right now on the F-16 again, from what I've heard, if I'm correct. I don't know if we'll be sending the aircraft, though, but they are being trained in the United States. However, it seems that the aircraft are always the biggest issue, as well. We're more than happy to provide the training. We're never happy to provide the aircraft. So the pilots will most likely return to Ukraine without the aircraft, and the aircraft will still be up in the air like they are right now. And so with that, I hope that does address that question the best we can. And I've got to be honest, Matthew, I'm feeling so down in the dumps. I think we're going to only answer about 3 more questions, and then we're going to round out tonight's stream. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And like seriously, don't eat the red Ricolas. Like those are rough. Like I've never actually eaten one yet, and that's pretty bad. But anyways, the next question goes to let's see here. We have a question from Plexus Gaming. He says, "Considering the Bayraktar's actions to date, have HIMARS achieved what the Bayraktars have?"
I would say the HIMARS has actually achieved, at least from the information we've seen, more than the Bayraktars have. At least in terms of material damage, the Bayraktars are great. And they fulfill their role incredibly well, but the HIMARS does an incredibly good job at its role. in the terms of actual damage, the HIMARS, I would say, has done more than the Bayraktar. But that's just my opinion, and we don't actually have any figures to back that up. We just have video evidence, and it looks like the HIMARS do more work, at least from what we know. And so with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well. And we are on to the second to last one of the night.
All right, and this one goes to Activista, who says, Matt, this is the same U.S. intel that predicted Kyiv would fall in 3 days, right? And even a college student in Alabama knew better. Just checking. I'm not sure if the U.S. intel actually said it would fall in 3 days. I think Russia was saying that it would fall in 3 days. If I'm sure.
Everyone said Ukraine was going to fall in 3 days to a week. The Milley said it. The Department of Defense made a statement saying it. Belarus said it. Russia said it. Everyone in the world said it.
Oh, they were bad wrong then.
Yeah, they were incredibly wrong. And I was saying, it's probably not going to last that long, And then they lasted much longer than that. We're a year and a month in nearly. So with that, I hope that answers that fairly well. Was that the second to last one of the night?
It was.
Oh, all right. And so with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so with that, who is the lucky last person who asked the lucky last question of the night?
All right, and that viewer is Marian Diemert, who says, do you guys have any way to get real-time news from Ukraine? It looks like Russia is throwing all they have at Ukraine right now.
We don't really have a way to get the up-to-date live video of what's going on in Ukraine. We could watch live cams, but I personally have a large aversion to that because it's usually nothing happens on them. And being honest about camera footage, nothing wrong with watching the live camera footage, but if I ran a stream like that, I would be sitting here giving no commentary, sitting here for hours on end. Everyone would become bored to death, and then something might happen over those 3 hours. And that's really the only way we have to see what's going on live in Ukraine. And for that reason, we generally avoid it with a passion, because there's nothing really worth watching, at least for that amount of time to get that little. So with that, sadly, there really isn't a good way. And also, it looks like we got one from Debsy Diepsta. And so, I hope we answered that question fairly well, Marion. And with that, we are on to the final Super Chat of the night, and then we'll be rounding out tonight's stream.
And Dubsy puts in a 2 and says, Enforcer, give your top 30 highlights of the war.
Top 30. Top 30. I'll try and give it a shot. So number 1 would be the run through hell. Number 2 would be the guy busting out his teeth on the BMP-2. Number 3 would be the raid that was conducted across the Dnipro River by the Ukrainians, where they blew up the base. Number 4 would be the Battle of Hostomel in its entirety from start to finish. Very interesting, very incredible to watch. The 5th one would be the Moskva sinking and the picture of it keeling over in the sea outside of Sevastopol. The 6th one would be, I'm honestly starting to run out right here because it's a lot to think of 30 of them. But the 6th one would be the Ukrainian flag flying over Balaklia. The 7th one would most likely be, let's see. Dang, I've honestly run out of them right now. The liberation of Kherson. The 8th one would be the Ukrainians shooting down the first missile with a man-pad. The 9th one would be the Ukrainians getting the Leopard 2A4s on February 24th. The 10th one would be the podcast that we ran on February 24th, which was pretty cool and very wild. The 11th one would be... Man, I can't believe I got into a number 11, actually. Number 11 would be the guy who... Honestly, I've run out of them. I can only get to 10. But still, I thank you so much for the support, Dubsy Dabster. And I hope we got to... I hope 10 was good, because I don't think I can get to 30 of them. But I still thank you so much for the support, and I hope we address that the best we can. It's just that I can't think of 30 of them right now off the top of my head. But still... thank you so much once again for support. It looks like we got one from Craig Patel as well. So let's get to that one, and then we'll be rounding out tonight's stream.
And this one from Craig Patel is a 5. And he says, I am still waiting on my royalties for them using my name.
Who?
Craigslist.
Oh, well, thank you so much for the support, Craig. And maybe one day they will actually give you the royalties you're owed for your name being on Craigslist. That's outrageous. If this was YouTube, they would have been copyright striked. That's unbelievable to think that they got away with that on the open market. Absolutely insane. So with that, thank you so much once again for support, Craig. I hope that does address that fairly well. And it's time for us to round out tonight's stream. I thank you all so much once again for watching. It's been a pleasure running tonight's stream. I hope you all have all enjoyed the news and also the question segment. And if y'all did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as this stream runs every single day of the week at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, except for Mondays. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, and of course, Slava Ukraini!
And Slava Ukraine, and since I haven't said it in a while, Pukan, Pukan. And man, your stick's not even on the ground, man.
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Усміхнеться доля, згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці, запануємо ми, браття, у своїй сторонці. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького